special meeting of Johnson County Council for what we have titled Budget Workshops. And normally we forego the formalities, but I do have an opening prayer, and I'd like us to do the pledge, and then we'll move on. We are on a tight schedule. So if you'll bow your heads with me, please. Lord, we ask for your presence to be felt in this room today. Help us to listen to one another with respect and understanding, even when we disagree. May our words be seasoned with grace and our actions reflect a spirit of cooperation and unity. Our common goal is to serve Johnson County with integrity and care. We know that not everyone will be pleased with the outcomes of this meeting, but we pray that all involved will feel heard and respected. Soften our hearts to be open to compromise where it is possible and to stand firm where it is necessary. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Amen. So we'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amy, will you or Elizabeth want to do a roll call for us, please?
Here.
Here.
Present.
Here.
If anyone comes out after we've started, I'll try to remember to announce that they've joined us in the meeting. Okay, so just want to say before we get started, something I have prepared to set us a few ground rules so we're all playing in the same game. But basically, today's public meeting serves as a workshop for the 2025 budget review for individual Johnson County departments. Each department has been invited to present before the council to address any concerns or provide necessary explanations regarding their individual budget requests for 2025. All elected officials and departments have been provided with a set of guidelines for the 2025 budget, and they have been asked to adhere to these guidelines. There will be no votes taken today. Questions may be posed by the council if needed. Additionally, while council members may comment on whether they support or do not support a budget, please be mindful of the limited time each department has to present. In order to get through every elected official and department, this is not a first reading of budgets, and debates about the budget would be more appropriate at the first reading. Each elected official and department have been previously appointed a council liaison. This liaison is their point of contact. If any additional information needs to be provided to the council at a later date, we ask that you reach out not only to your liaison, but to the other 6 members as well, and relay any additional information or questions, and you will receive a response before budget hearings. Projected goal date for those additional questions and information, I'm hoping is August, I would like to be by August 26th. That way it gives us a little bit of time before budget hearings to review anything we may have received additionally. And this is going to work both ways, not just for us, but for you as well. Today's agenda is based on the order of the department's presentations and will run continuously with a small break about halfway through. Plan on keeping your presentation under 15 minutes or under. There may be exceptions for a few departments who have previously indicated they will need a small bout of individual time. We will not be open for public comments during this meeting. However, as I stated before, all of your questions or comments can be directed to all 7 council members via email, telephone, or in person. Their individual emails and addresses can be located on the county website. What I'm trying to do today is not the day to debate where something is accepted or not accepted, right or wrong, or different from another department. This is presentation of information based on the guidelines that were set forth. So, and I would like to note for the record that Mr. Dittmers has joined us at 12:06.
Irresponsibly late.
Hey, do you want to explain why John Myers isn't here?
No,
Okay.
no, I'll leave that to someone else.
Okay.
Okay, I believe we are ready to start, and it looks like the first up is our commissioners. And that is located on page 52 in your budget books. So if anyone choosing to speak for the Commissioner's Office would like to come to the podium and state your name and position, we'll be happy to hear you. You got 15 minutes. Go, Ron.
Ron West, Johnson County Commissioner. Probably the two things we'd like to point out here is the stipend. The two stipends, one for our Assistant County Attorney and the County Coordinator. The justification for that is the extra work that Barb continues to do in regard to the ADA compliance and some other areas that have just been, every year it gets bigger and bigger and consumes more of her time. We thought that this would be appropriate to ask for the stipend in relation to that. When that work goes away, if it ever does, then the stipend can go away, of course. The Assistant Attorney, it's just unbelievable how much work Tiffany's doing, well beyond what her job description initially called for. She's been involved in a number of areas, especially human resources, trying to provide additional services for all of the various departments and elected officials. And I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome Jonathan T. Myers to this meeting.
Hello, Ronald Hartwell West. Excuse my tardiness.
Those are the two main things I'd point out. The rest of our budget items are pretty much based on what we anticipate we'll need in regard to claims in those line items as we move forward during the year. Salary increases, we went with something beyond the recommended 5% that the council had put out as a council guideline, or at least a suggested council guidelines. Be happy to discuss that if you have need for more information. Healthcare costs continue to go up, and we've witnessed that year after year after year. Even though we've done some things in the past where we went with HealthSync through the Franciscan Alliance Group, which saves the employee quite a bit of money, especially in deductibles, saves the county a certain amount of money and medical costs that our employees incur during the year. We're currently looking at maybe a primary clinic opportunity. We're still evaluating and waiting on some numbers from those providers. FICA and PERF, those things are directly related in a percentage based on 100 series expenses. One thing we did this year is kind of unique, and I'd be happy to discuss this in detail. The departments that are under our purview, we ask them to not line item wearing apparel, but allow us to put that in our budget so that we would have some oversight a little closer in regard to those expenditures. If you ever attend too many commissioners' meetings, I'm sure you've heard me comment a time or two on wearing apparel, the need and exactly what they provide in the way of employee clothing. Beyond that, I don't have a whole lot that I could discuss at this time. If you have any questions or anything you'd like to.
Hey, Ron, I
Yeah,
had a
Melinda.
question here. Under the burial veterans and widows, I see increase in legal drain
And
assessment.
you're gonna have to speak in the microphone because I don't hear you.
Yes, absolutely. I want to be heard.
Yeah. What was your question?
You have a line item here for burial veterans and widows,
Yes.
and there's a note to the far right that says increase in legal drain assessments. What's that about?
That's under property tax assessment for the increase in
Yeah,
legal
that's
drain
under property
assessments.
tax
Okay.
assessments. With the revision that the surveyor's doing on the fees that he's gonna be charging going forward on legal drain, we're subject to those also.
Okay.
Yeah.
I, for one, Ron, had reviewed your budget line item by line item, and everything that you pointed out is what I recognized is outside the guidelines recommended, so thank you for covering everything that you did, and I will stress to you that this board works with Barbie a lot, and Tiffany, and agree completely with everything that you have said. I feel that it would just be inappropriate for me at this time to lead you to believe that I would support the supplement line items. But as I said, we're not taking a vote here, and I'm one of 7. But if anybody else has any questions for Mr. West?
I do under CC Board of Commissioners. I realize it's decreased, but sheriff vehicles from 350 to 200,000, why is there a decrease?
Which one was that?
CCD 40 line item.
What page is that?
That'll be Brian.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, the CCD
On
fund.
sheriff vehicles?
Okay, Brian's coming up.
We, go ahead.
If you know how to answer, go ahead, sir.
No, that's all right.
What we basically did there was, is we decreased it out of what we would take out of cum cap, and we put more into the bond,
Okay.
the GOB for sheriff's vehicles. We normally operate out of both anyway, and we normally take more out of the bond than we normally do cum cap. We just thought we were gonna need a little more out of cum cap this year, but once we got the budget, the GOB finalized, we realized that we didn't need that much.
And I would say that Mr. Dittmers, as I'm sure you know, is your liaison. So if you have any additional information, questions, problems, comments, or you want to supply, you can start with him and then go with the rest of us. And that target date is no later than August 26th.
Please leave a message.
Thank you very
I
much.
think we've already been, or Ron's already been in discussion, or Kevin's already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and we understand that a headlock is an approved technique, so we're working on that with John.
No, you fight on the pickleball court as to who wins on what.
Yeah. All right, well, unless you have something further,
We're good, and you're
All
under
right,
your
well, thank
15
you.
minutes. Thank
Ron.
you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Veterans, High Seneca. And same goes, as we talked about liaison, I am the liaison for veterans. So if you have anything additional after today, reach out.
Yeah, so my name's
Okay.
Seneca with Johnson County Veterans Affairs. The
Page
only-
55.
Page 55. The only item I have, other than the recommended 8% or whatever, was the 31500 travel and training. When I first came on, I don't know, 19 or 20, I am so against spending of any sort, so I just slashed everything. Well, it turns out you actually travel more than I think you did. So normally I just eat it because to me, I'm out of the office anyway. I'm already getting paid for a day of work. But when we teamed up with Veterans Court, we're sitting board members for all that stuff, and that actually does require real travel. If it's in the state, it's whatever. I just count it as like a office day or whatever. I don't put in for any reimbursements for that. But when you're traveling far distances and taking all this training and all that stuff, there is a cost associated with that. So that's the only thing I've asked for, just
I
money
did-
to help cover travel. So,
I also researched your line items, and you're correct, that's the only one that's different. For the last 3 years, though, it's been 0. And so I think that's a fair request, trying to add the additional amount for the traveling and training and it not come out of your pocket. So, but again, I can't support the 8%, so just so we're,
Right,
as your liaison, I can't support I won't support the 8%.
okay.
Okay?
Any
You have any,
questions? for
you
me?
have any questions for us? Anybody here have any questions?
No, thanks for your service.
Yeah, thanks for all you do. Love the poster. I haven't seen it yet, so that looks beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, you guys good?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Seneca. Next up is Fleet.
Hi.
Hi, and your liaison is John Eddie Myers.
Yes.
Okay.
What page is that?
It is on page 65, Melinda.
65.
Thank you.
I just had, Bob Delansky, Johnson County Fleet. On my budget, you'll see that we reduced the fuel from last year, $100,000. Obviously, prices have gone down, but really don't know what next year is gonna bring. My increases on my employees, is not with the 5%, and that's simply because for the last couple of years, I've tried, and without success, to get them kind of equal with the other municipalities and counties that surround us. We're anywhere between $17,000 and $30,000 a year less than all these other agencies, including the schools, the school districts for mechanics. Our mechanics, we run 254 different items that the gentlemen work on, and 191 of those are vehicles, motor vehicles. Josh Klein, who's our foreman out there, he's been with us, Johnson County, for 23 years, and that's a lot of experience. Brad Payton has been with the county for going on 11 years now, with years of experience as a mechanic before that. Our mechanics are, as far as I'm concerned, the best in the county. We work on gasoline engines, diesel engines, trailers. The guys work on our light towers. There's nothing that they cannot do. Just to be, equal with the other agencies around here, including the school districts, mechanics, you're in the neighborhood of $75,000 a year, and we're not asking for that. We're just asking for a decent, livable, functioning wage. It's no different than the arguments that, we've heard from other departments in past years where you don't want to lose certain people because of their certifications. Well, you certainly don't want to lose the quality and the education of our mechanics, because without them, the vehicles don't get up and run the way that we have them. So just some explanations of why we put in what we put in, and that was the help with the commissioners to help me ask for these numbers. So is there any other questions? I'd be more than happy to answer.
Anybody other than me?
The fleet the fuel reduction, I'm trying to remember, was it this last year?
2 years ago.
You came and asked us for more.
Yeah.
So what has changed?
Well, prices are now $1.10 less than what it was at that time. So, I don't know, nobody here knows what the fuel is gonna be next year. We just don't know. But we're hoping that it's gonna be, comparison to what it is right now, we'd be okay at 800,000.
Okay, and are we, a side issue, are we doing okay with the new system? As far as, are we saving anything with the new system?
Time, travel, obviously that results in money, for sure.
Okay.
If one of the deputies or highway doesn't have to come all the way back down to Franklin to fill up when they're in White River Township, we're saving time, money, and effort.
I know the time is not trackable, but are you noticing any difference in the less gallonage being used because they're not doing that?
I think so, yeah. I couldn't give you exact numbers, but for sure, we're definitely less than what we were, for sure. Now, I will say one thing. We do over, in a year's time, we'll over 450 preventative maintenance services alone in Johnson County that 2.5 guys do. That's a lot. That's not including major repairs, things like that, upfitting new sheriff's vehicles, electronics. To send out one sheriff vehicle to be upfitted would cost the county over $12,000. We do it in about 12 to 13 days at about $3,500. You times that by 10 vehicles a year, that's a lot of money we're saving by having inside people do this. Any other questions?
Anybody? I want to insert here that, and again, I can't speak for everybody, but our goal last year and this year has been to streamline and to make a more stable process moving forward. I will, as we've talked about in other meetings, our goal for next year is the new job study, which will tell you exactly where you stand again on low, medium, high, and outside services, classification of your people. So it'll give everyone that avenue to reevaluate. When we asked for new job descriptions, we ended up getting like 64, so that showed a need to have it done again. So moving forward to next year, that will at least give you a guideline how you compare to other equitable counties. And I've heard nothing but good things from your department. And I'm not going to say this every time, but I will say, no, I won't support an 8% raise. 5% is, I'm glad they can get it, and that's a good raise. But I have one question on the increase of 63% in your lease payments. I know that's justifiable, but just out of curiosity, what brought that up?
That's for the GPS system. We now
Got it.
have
Got it.
multiple GPS systems.
Okay,
So
all right. Anybody else? Mr. Galinsky? Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for your service.
Okay, we got courthouse maintenance up next. And that's on page 62. Hi, Jason.
Hi, Jason Miller, Courthouse Maintenance. One thing I really have is I wanted to ask him to add 2 additional staff members on the new health department building. One for a maintenance, one for a custodial. That's my big ask. I mean, I've got a couple of line item increases, but it's minimal.
Jason, can you, we've all been around here a long time, and we know that you come each year, and that's the need, is not enough people. So I guess, assuming you're going to talk about the 2 new positions, but if you should get those, one of my questions would be, could you not reduce the part-time money if new employees are added?
Right now, we're in need of new custodial staff right now, full-time, with part-time. I'd like to ask for more part-time money.
Moving forward, though, if you're given 2 new employees in '25, you feel you're still going to need all that part-time money?
I can't guarantee that I won't, no. We're so shorthanded on full-time right now. I'm trying to do everything but part-time, but I can't keep the staff. I just had somebody that got hired last month and has already quit.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems to be the same problem everybody's having, isn't it?
So, I mean, part-time, there's no benefits to stay,
Yeah,
other than a little bit of hourly wage, which, we try to compete, but it's hard to.
Yeah.
I'm paying, I think my highest paid part-time is like $14 an hour.
Yeah.
I've been here for 3 or 4 years.
yeah. And again,
And if
that
I-
same avenue next year,
Yeah, correct. And if
would be an
if
avenue
I
to
raise
get
those
that where it needs to
part-times
be.
up, then I won't have, I'll burn through the part-time line item probably 8 months instead
Okay.
of 12.
Well, before you get back to talking about your 2 new employees, I also noticed that your landscaping was up 18%. Is that normal? Or is it just the sign of the times?
It varies. It varies on how many times a year that they have to mow. If we're getting a lot of rain, they're mowing more. If we're getting less rain, they're mowing less. It's just going to be varying. The actual price per month really hasn't gone up.
Okay. All right, well, I'll let you get back to talking about your 2 new employees because you're going to have to sell it, basically.
Well, since I had the last new employee I added was 2021. That was a full-time custodian. Before that, we added the training center, the dispatch center, took over juveniles cleaning, and now we're doing health department. With the health department, it's a whole building, so that's why I'm asking for another maintenance staff too. And I added 1 employee to that. So, and now we're doubling the size of the training center to boot, and we're getting ready to build a new community correction center that we're gonna have to do, which we're not currently doing. So, I think I'm justified in the staffing needs. 'Cause I don't come to the council and ask for things unless I absolutely need them.
I understand. Anybody have any questions for Jason?
So the health department and coroner's office, that's a new custodian for that one, is that what you're saying?
That's where I'm gonna place them, yes.
Okay,
So it's a big enough building that it needs a full-time custodian over there. I don't have the staff to be running back and forth over there every day.
but the community corrections won't be in 2025?
No, it will not be until I don't know when it will be done,
Okay,
but
but you mentioned
just
that.
give you a heads up.
Yeah, you mentioned that for the maintenance part of it, not the custodial part of it.
Well, we do not do the custodial part of community corrections now, but they're wanting it
Okay, but that's not next year.
That's not next year, no.
Okay, and so the maintenance part of it, you were talking about?
The maintenance part of it, the health department, we are doing this year, on the new building, which we did not have to have when we were renting the other building.
Well, I hope we don't have a bunch of maintenance on the new building.
You have no idea.
Kevin?
There's always maintenance issues. New, old, it makes no difference.
Anybody else? Jason, thank you to you and your staff.
Oh, you're
We
welcome.
appreciate all that you do. And if, I see John Eddy is your liaison. Any of us up here can help you. So if there's anything additional you want to add or questions for us, and the same for up here, August 26th is our goal date for having all the final information.
Okay, I don't think I need anything unless you guys
Okay.
have questions for me that
I-
you need answered.
Right now, I think we're good. We may
Okay,
think of something
thanks.
later.
Thank you for your service.
Next, we have Highway. It's on page 69.
Good afternoon, Luke Maston, Highway Supervisor. I appreciate the council providing me an hour and a half today.
Well, your hair will go back by then.
It may. Very briefly, I do want to talk about and kind of issue a reminder of how our funding works. There are several funds that we submitted budgets for. The main funds that we operate out of are the Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, 1176, and the LRS Fund, which is 1169. In 1176, there is also the 1173 budget, which is a statutory requirement. Those expenditures have to be separated and spent specifically on construction, reconstruction, and preservation tasks. So when we talk about 1173, that is actually part of the 1176 budget, but it has to be separated out per statute. Unfortunately, that complicates budgeting and transfers, but we've made it work so far. The remainder of that revenue then for MVH, it stays in the 1176 budget. That is pretty much our operating budget. So that includes our personal services, includes some expenses that are not eligible for 1173, like fuel and salt. It does also include some expenses that are eligible or would be eligible to be in 1173. But I keep them in 1176 just to make managing the 200 and 300 series in 1176 easier. And we meet the statutory requirement regardless. LRS 1169 is pretty straightforward. It's mainly capital expenditures. So projects, you'll see a list of projects there. Equipment purchases as well. In those projects, there's our asphalt concrete aggregates line item that is used for both paying contractors, if we contract out some of our annual maintenance work, as well as the material costs for work that we perform in-house. And the last main revenue source is the wheel tax. That actually consists of two taxes, the vehicle excise surtax and the wheel tax, basically for vehicles and for trucks. We currently have that in place. That is a local option tax. It is set at what the former maximums were per statute, which is $25 for vehicles, $40 for larger trucks, with a few exceptions for lower rates for motorcycles, motor-driven scooters, and light trailers. That revenue, that wheel tax revenue that's generated is deposited into the MVH fund. So it's reflected in there in the estimate of fees. For estimating what our fees or what our revenue is going to be for the upcoming year, DLGF puts out guidance on how to estimate that. I actually don't follow that. Their recommended estimates are very, very conservative, really too conservative. State Board of Accounts used to handle that, and their estimates seemed more reasonable. So what I will do is look at our past receipts, our actual receipts, and typically budget based off of that revenue. So the last half of 2023 and the first half of 2024, our actual receipts are what I'm estimating for our MVH and LRS distributions. As mentioned a few times already, we did submit our salaries at 8% versus the 5% in the budget guidelines. Since our funds are separate, I think this is my 17th year of being involved in the budget. There are times where the general fund is in better shape than the highway funds. There have been times where the highway funds are in better shape than the general fund, since they are two different revenues and are not related. So there are times where the highway department could have provided a larger salary increase than the general fund, and vice versa, which is where we are right now. I'm not anticipating significant revenue increases based off of our previous actual distributions. So providing either the 5% or the 8% in 1176 is proving to be a challenge. So that was my not very brief overview.
You did good.
Thank you. I will walk through our budgets. For the most part, they're pretty much the same as they have been, or the same philosophy as they have been in the past. So we have our general fund expenses. Those were formerly the personal services costs that were in the cumulative bridge fund. There are also some placeholders there for encumbrances for contracts that are already underway. 1138 is the bridge 300 and 400 series expenses. Again, they're pretty much the same. The only thing that typically changes there is the bridge inspection line item. Those expenses alternate from not very much to a lot, since every bridge is required to be inspected every 2 years. Next year's inspections, that dollar amount anticipated goes down because only some of the bridges need annual inspections. Local road and street, again, pretty straightforward. I estimated slight increase, nothing significant in our revenue, and put that in our asphalt concrete aggregates budget. General fund highway 201, that is our Smith Valley Road line item. Again, that is the $4 million annually that the council had previously sought to provide to save up for the construction phase of that project. And then 1112 is the edit fund. And again, that expenditure is identified in what was submitted for Smith Valley Road. That 2025 requested amount is based off of a recommendation from Mike Reuter, as we'll be getting some supplemental revenue in that fund for the third year, which is next year. And then 1176, again, as I mentioned, salaries were submitted at 8%. Reflected the change that we made earlier this year, eliminating the technician and bringing back the mechanic. That has actually worked out very well. I'm very pleased with that. Probably I'll get to some of the other series later, and there's not much going on there, but the biggest issue for us has been health insurance. We're now at the point where we are over $500,000 of 1176 money that we're providing for health insurance costs. If you'll notice, I submitted my budget out of balance because if we have to find room in 1176 to fund our shortfall, I'm not sure where I'm going to take it from. Quite honestly, I would probably just have to take it out of savings. Since the majority of these other line items in this fund are operating expenses, those are expenses that we're going to have to pay regardless. So I can't really cut those line items. My request for you to consider would be the possibility of moving the health insurance costs to the general fund under the commissioners, where all of the other department health insurance costs are paid from. That would result in a savings of somewhere positive of 200,000, maybe 250,000. If that change is made, that the majority of that money will go into the asphalt concrete line item account or fund, the line item in the MVH fund, essentially applied towards our maintenance program for next year. I may take some of that, put it towards vehicle maintenance and repairs, just because those expenses have gotten pretty bad the last few years with inflation costs. But that is going to be my request at first hearing. Otherwise, the 200 and 300 series, I've shifted some funding around to cover some line items that it looks like we may run short in this year. That's not uncommon. And then within those series, I can manage that budget throughout the year, typically without requiring additional appropriations during the year. And then the last one is, as I mentioned, the MVH restricted 1173. Again, that money all goes into construction, reconstruction, and preservation work as part of our annual program. And that's all.
Thank you.
I have a question on line item 44, 100, and under 1176. And it's always tough to ask a question about something that's decreased, but I want to understand when we have in 2024, the budget was 556,000 approximately, and we've got a balance of 940,000, and you reduced that. So what are we not doing with the miscellaneous? What do you?
Glad you mentioned that because I forgot and skipped over it. So typically, we budget about $40,000 in this line item annually. Last year, I requested to raise that. So essentially, last year's budget was submitted out of balance. The intention was spending some money that we had in savings on equipment costs. Rather than, I knew we were going to have some expenses this year. Rather than have to come back at one of your meetings and ask for an additional appropriation, I just budgeted that line item higher. Again, the net result is using our savings to purchase some equipment. So that $40,000 that number is at is actually what it usually is. Last year was just different for that reason.
All right, so the $940,000 balance, that's being spent?
Oh, yeah, yes. We have the bulk of that equipment ordered. I'm not sure how much of it is going to be delivered and be able to be paid by the end of the year. We're going to be cutting it close on a few things. So we may be in a situation where I can't cut those checks before the end of the year, and I have to come back at the first of next year to reappropriate that money. But it'll just be whatever the remaining balance is in that line item.
I have a question about you mentioned the 200,000 as a savings. If you shifted it to the commissioner's budget,
Yes.
the general fund, would that just not be a shift? It's not a savings, right? It's still costing the taxpayers 200,000.
Correct. In terms of overall, looking at all the budgets, yes, that expense exists, whether it's in highway or the general fund.
So covering all the buckets, I'd like to know what the commissioners think about that going into yours. Somebody,
I was going to ask Luke if he had discussed it with the commissioners and what their thoughts were. If Luke,
Oh, okay. I actually recommended to Luke that he consider making this change this year. His line item budget for employee health insurance is $507,500. I suggested shifting all of it over for two reasons. One, that money could be used as we sorely need to do street and road repair around the county. We're always behind the curve there in funding, and I just felt like it would be a better use for those funds. Secondly, as Mike Reuters in his first fiscal analysis showed that we were going to be positive in the budget process this year, for about $2 million. Now, of course, after first reading, you'll get a revised budget analysis, and then you'll be able to make a choice or a decision based on that more appropriately. Secondly, a lot of these costs are duplicated, as I pointed out before, in the budget system. We're always running close on health funding through our budget. The worst we would anticipate is we would have a shortfall late in the year and maybe have to get an additional appropriation. But I think this year or 2025, we'll be all right in that regard. Going into 2026, we'll be able to reevaluate it and then make a decision based on that. But given the experience that we've had in the past on road and street repair, those monies surely could be used more efficiently, I think, at this time. And given that the council would have the ability to cover any excess health insurance costs that we might incur.
thank you. Anybody else for Luke?
Thanks, Luke.
Thank you.
I'm not done.
Save the
Imagine
best
that.
for last.
Yeah, no, I just didn't want to be redundant. I think I've been a part of all 17 of those budgets.
I think you have too.
Yeah. And I know the restricted fund and the other, they can get very complicated, and you do a magnificent job.
Thank you.
Sometimes you're a little slow, but you do a magnificent job.
I'm thorough.
I do have a couple of questions, Luke, and I did not write down the fund numbers, and I've spent 52 hours in this book last week, so I'm not going to go back and hunt for it now. So
That's fine.
I'm sure you'll know what they are, but I've noticed that on some of your part-time line items that you have not used any of that money that you've appropriated for the last 3 years.
That's correct.
So could we not maybe take that down to $1? And if especially if you don't find a need for it, might help out with some of the numbers?
We could. That used to be, I think, 30,000 a few budgets ago, and yes, we've not spent that. The main reason that I've kept it even at a lower dollar amount is to have the ability to bring in part-time truck drivers for winter. The last several winters have not been that bad, and that's not been needed. But we do have one employee currently that is in the system for us to be able to use as part-time. if
So
needed.
maybe we could compromise, and then if you was to need more, you could come back. But
Yeah,
if you've gone 3 years, I don't think you're going to need all that money. Just a thought, might help in your bottom line.
Yeah.
And I noticed there was a 42% increase in hardware and tools. You know, just like I'm not public safety, I'm not sheriff, I'm not prosecutor, I'm not highway. So can you kind of briefly touch on?
We have run short in hardware and tools, it seems like, for the last several years. Last year, rather short. This year, we have already expended what I had budgeted for that. That runs the gamut of hand tools we use in the shop, hand tools that we use in the field, minor parts like bolts and nuts that may not be attributed to vehicle maintenance. Those costs have just continued to go
Gotcha.
up. Yeah.
And one last thing from me, I noticed that there's $10,000 that you budget every year for safety, and you've used very little to none for that. Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
Yes. Primarily, that expenditure is for high-vis apparel. There are certain requirements working out on the road that we have to meet per ANSI standards. We actually just received a shipment of shirts and vests that are not reflected as an expenditure yet.
Gotcha.
So that will show up. And then I do have some winter apparel that I have to purchase as well.
Okay,
So there will be some left in there,
Yeah.
but at this point, probably not a lot.
okay. Well, that's fair. Okay, those are the only questions I had, and thanks for doing such,
Hey,
and
Luke, I'm sorry.
no,
Quick question, a follow-up to what Pam was talking about on, I don't know what it was, part-time, overtime. Can you speak to that? And historically, what that's looked like?
Overtime is always a fun game. We have had winters where we have blown through what we had budgeted for overtime. The last several winters, we have not. So I did not, even though there's an increase in salaries, I did not propose an increase in overtime. But that's always one of those lines where I may come in February and March, depending on how bad the winter is, and need to appropriate or transfer some funds to cover that. I try to keep it at a number that generally will get us through the year. But I didn't raise it because I don't know if it's global warming or what, but the winters haven't been so bad.
Yeah, my question goes to, only about a third of it was used through the first half of the year.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, we didn't,
begs the
we
question.
did not
right?
have to work very much overtime this last winter in the first part of this calendar year. Now, that also does cover like any other overtime, so call out for storms, that covers our on-call person, plus anyone else who has to come in for that. That's typically not the bulk of the expense. It's usually overtime for winter maintenance.
it's more preventative than anything, correct?
Yes.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is the animal shelter. Hi.
Good morning, Carrie Clutchy, Animal Shelter and Animal Control. This year, the main thing that I wanted to go over was the full-time. I did request 3 new full-time positions, and I took that money out of the part-time budget for the most part. We're finding that our full-time, being there more often, getting more, they get paid less per hour, but they get more hours and they get those benefits. It's a huge benefit. They were able to give them more jobs than just a part-time person. They pick up things, they're able to handle a different level of responsibility. And as far as the reception full-time, we're paying them that amount to be part-time, but there's no consistency. So we have a different receptionist every day. Paperwork keeps getting lost. One day something happens and the family comes in the next day and the new receptionist doesn't know what's going on. So our office manager is spending a lot of time being an overpaid receptionist. The things that I want her to do, she doesn't have time to do because I don't have a receptionist there every day that knows from day to day what's going on in the facility. And I did take that 100,000 out of the part-time. It's going to make it really tough next year with part-time, but the goal is to give more responsibility to our full-time, to take that load off part-time, and we're trying to lessen our need for part-time employees.
Obviously, this is going to add to the county's responsibility for insurance and benefits and that type of thing. So I'm assuming this is something that the commissioners are in support of.
Yes? Yes.
I assumed you had spoken to them
I
about your
have,
budget.
but I expected bigger smiles and shakes of heads. but
Okay.
Yes, I did speak with them prior to this and they did approve it.
I know me personally, for several years now, I've seen different directors and commissioners and things come before councils and express a huge need for our animal control, but it's a pie and it's got to be divided. So what would be, and this is just thinking off the cuff, how would you handle it with 2 new employees or 1 new employee? I know, would anything help, or is it absolutely positively have to be 3?
Anything helps. The more that we can get, the more it takes off of other people responsibilities. The only thing is if they don't approve all 3, if you guys say only 1, I need that money put back in part-time because I can't run the facility if I,
And that would be something at first reading that it would be discussed and corrected then, but that was the only questions I have. Anybody else?
Turnover, what's our turnover rate look like?
I knew you were gonna ask that. I don't know, I can look that up and send that to everyone. I know our part-time, if I include everyone that shows up at orientation and doesn't come to the first day or just doesn't show up at orientation, it's a lot. We interview, I schedule orientations a couple of times a week, and a lot of times they go and then they last a day or they never show up for the first day. And it's because the moment they get there, I mean, I've had people work half day, put their keys down and walk out. It's very, very physical and it's really hard. So yeah, our turnover is not great for part-time.
Okay. All right, and your liaison as well is John Eddie Myers, so between now and whenever, if you have anything else you want to add, or you have questions for us, or anyone has any questions for you, we'll get in touch with you, and thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Okay, County Park, and that's page 1 and 2. Hi.
Hi, Kevin Leonard, Superintendent, Johnson County Parks. Yeah, our main request for today was looking to add another full-time maintenance position as well. We've just, definitely the last few years, this increased growth with our park events and our horse park events just continue to get, we keep adding some events to provide more for the community. Horse park events continue to get bigger and bigger, making it harder on our staff flipping stalls and flipping the horse park in between each week. And on top of that, just our normal maintenance that our guys do, cleaning rooms and shelters and the other facilities we have. Excuse me. And then just some new amenities we're getting ready to add. Working with bond funding with the commissioners of the new office and camp store that we will have next year. We'll have new pickleball courts at Independence Park that will require maintenance. On our end, we're looking at adding some more playgrounds down at Johnson County Park as well, kind of expanding ones we have and adding some others. And then just continually working with commissioners on future bond projects as well. It's just getting hard on the staff we do have. There's a lot of grueling maintenance, flipping stalls and maintaining all the acreage we do have. And just like with everybody else, having part-time help is getting harder and harder to find and keep. So that was our main ask, was just trying to add another full-time maintenance worker. And then we've even been down one this year that's been out on medical leave, so it's made things even more tough on the guys we do have.
All right. Only question I had after reviewing your budget is, and I'm not going to do this every time, but my intents are is the 5% is it for everybody, so I won't address that. But when was the last time you hired a new full-time employee? And can you talk a little bit about your turnover rate? Because that's a hard job as well.
We added the recreation director position a few years ago in the office. And then maintenance-wise, we've been at 5 full-time maintenance workers at least since I've been at the park, and that's since 2016. I'm not sure when there was an ad before that. And maintenance, we've had the main bulk of our maintenance workers at least the last few years, but there is some turnover. Seems like at least every couple of years because it does get difficult. Part-time, it is hard to find part-time workers, and a lot of our part-time stuff that we need help with is on the weekends, and nobody wants to work weekends. It's hard to find people that want to work weekends. So it's just getting more tough. Our turnover is not horrible, but we do have some turnover every so often.
Anybody else have questions for Kevin?
Yeah, line item 36102, contractual services. 200% increase. What's says for DOC.
In our 1178, yeah, so, in the past, all of our, the money that we pay for our DOC crew has come out of the 1157 contractual services. So we looked at adding some in our own 1178 this year to be able to keep that crew throughout the entire year instead of just half the year.
That's good planning.
Okay, and then office equipment, what's the increase there?
We just anticipated having some increased costs with the new office coming in, possibly having
The
to
new
buy some new
office.
equipment for the office.
Anybody else? Okay, and your liaison is Mr. Deere. So if you feel the need to talk to any of us, start with him and go forward.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we have the coroner.
Michael Pruitt, Johnson County Coroner. As you look across our budget, we pretty much went through it and felt like we could hold the line on most of everything that we had in 2024 and increased our budget mainly by about a little over $5,000, and that just went into the 5% increase for myself, the chief deputy, and then our full-time employee.
It's on page
our
11, I'm
administrative-
sorry.
Our administrative deputy coroner, and then because everybody else works part-time, we just increased those paper calls by 5%. Now, we didn't increase the line item because we felt like last year's numbers, we could live within those to work into 2025. That's our hope.
Okay.
Right here on the budget, it says wearing apparel 3,000. Is that going to get moved over to the commissioners?
That, I don't know. I have not had that discussion with the commissioners.
We just had it earlier.
Elected officials would have,
I was going to say, the commissioners are just doing the people that are under them, not elected officials.
Yeah.
He's elected.
I know, but in the budget for the department,
His department does not fall under the jurisdiction of the commissioners.
okay, all right.
and it isn't, I saw it in the health department budget, unless I misread it, and I don't see it in your budget, and it said rent in the health department budget.
We don't have anything that we rent.
Well,
And I don't know, I can't answer to that rent section.
do you, either one of the commissioners aware of why they're paying rent? Well, it came to me on the coroner's budget, it wasn't there, yes. She'll probably bring it up during her budget, but.
He doesn't have rent in his budget. Kevin Walls, Johnson County Commissioner, he doesn't have rent. We are under a sustaining rent for the health department in the old facility until we're trying to work on actively buying out that lease.
Okay.
But in the timing when we had to write the lease and when we built a new building, we were kind of stuck between a rock and a hard spot. That's why we're pushing everything into county owned so we don't have to deal with these issues
All
anymore.
right, makes sense.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Michael, I have a note here in red that says postage, $100. Why would I question that?
Well, sometimes the only thing that we would need postage for is sometimes we mail personal belongings cross-country. And so that's why we have that postage in there, if we have to mail something like that. We don't do it very often, but.
That's such a minimal amount,
Yeah.
evidently something at that time.
Well, that's probably why you asked the question.
Yeah.
Or put it in red. But every once in a while, we do have to mail personal belongings, and that's basically what that's in there for if we have to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and didn't you tell us one year that you sometimes had to mail the cremated remains?
There's been times we have not had to mail the cremains. There are other items, it's usually personal items. Usually if there's a funeral home, they handle all of that, of transferring cremains.
That must have been my thinking, is what could you possibly be mailing?
Yeah, just personal belongings.
Okay, all right, sorry.
That's okay.
And then Melinda, I think, from his past presentations, the reason for his expenses for uniform or whatever, or how do I want to say it, not uniform, but clothing, is because of handling of hazardous materials.
We do
HazCom
replace
sheets.
clothing every year from soil contaminated clothing that does arise from time to time throughout the year.
I
And-
just wanted to bring that up.
And your liaison also is
John.
John Eddie Myers. If you need anything, let us know, and if we need anything, we'll reach out to you.
Okay, thank you.
We were scheduled to take a break about halfway through. Does anyone feel it's needed, or would you guys like to proceed?
We can continue on.
I think we're moving pretty good. Want to proceed?
Yes.
It's all right, I'm sure it's all right with everybody out there. Okay, we have the assessor,
Afternoon, Mike Watkins, County Assessor.
and it is on page 20. Sorry, I keep
Oh, that's
forgetting.
okay.
Tell them the page number, page 20.
I have 3 different budgets that my office handles every year. If you add them up and then take out the stuff that isn't going to have to happen in both budgets next year, my budget actually totally went down $8,903. What we're proposing this year is because the reassessment fund is hemorrhaging money per Mike Royer and cannot be sustained for paying employees out of that on a long-term, much more long-term basis. We're wanting to move 4 of the 8 employees in the reassessment budget into the general fund. We requested all 4 salaries in both reassessment and in general fund. However, obviously, we're not gonna pay the same person twice. Whichever budget they end up in, we will cancel one that they are not in, which is why I said that the overall total went down by close to $9,000. We stuck to exactly the 5% increases per the council's request. If you've got any other questions, I'm ready.
I got a couple.
Yep.
Well, I'll go to the easy ones first. Okay, I noticed that in some of the part-time funds, none of that money has been utilized in the last 3 years.
Correct.
Except for when one of your employees retired and you had to pay
Yes.
that person out, there, that was used from there. But other than that, it looks like there is a couple that, I mean, do they really need, consider we're doing a zero balance. Do you feel that those funds are necessary since they haven't been used in 3 years?
In the sales disclosure fund and reassessment, I would have no issue with a reduction in both of those. In the general fund part-time budget, we are going to be hiring a part-time person in the next 2 to 3 months to help out personal property during their busy time.
Uh-huh.
I would prefer to keep that $5,000
Okay.
where it is.
Okay, that's understandable. And Mike did, I don't know if he used the word hemorrhaged, but he did.
My word, sorry.
Yeah. He did express some concern, and I agree with you completely, but I don't feel the need is immediate. I think we could start small and then see how we look next year and then go on. So how many did you request altogether be moved in there? 4?
4.
4. And this is just a suggestion and thinking out loud. My suggestion would be let's do half of those this year. See where we stand next year with Mike and then go from there. I don't think it was required a knee-jerk reaction to remove all 4 of those. Now, I know that you have an employee that, prior to this, it was an auditor's employee that was being paid out of there. That has gone back to the auditor, correct?
That is my understanding, yes. They
Yes.
are not on my budget any
Yes,
further.
that has gone back to the auditor, so that'll relieve 1 out of there. So just food for thought, and we can talk about it moving forward. But my thought would be let's do 2 and then look at those 2 that you think you don't need. Keep them at $1 in case you do need them moving forward on the part-time and the 2 funds. But then other than that, everything looked great. Thank you for staying within the guidelines.
No, not a problem at all.
The several job description wordage, is anything changing other than, for example, the first one is the certified appraiser line 113333, changing to appeal specialist data technician. What are you doing with all those different changes like that?
Those are just title changes. The job descriptions themselves, there's not a single syllable different than before.
Okay.
Breaking it down, probably saying more than I should.
Good job.
The
Good
job
job.
titles were a little inflated. I'm trying to make it right and more comparable to the other offices.
And I see that Melinda is your liaison, so I'm sure if you have anything you need to add or take away, or she has any questions, she'll be reaching out to you, and as all of us will, feel free to do whatever you need to do, but appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. You get a gold star.
Thank you.
Auditor is on page 22.
Good afternoon. Elizabeth Alvey, Auditor of Johnson County. I just have one item I want to bring to your attention, and it's the Fund 1181. Yes, you probably already heard from the assessor that he has asked us he had asked us to truly budget for her salary this year, so that's what we are planning on doing. So that is the major thing I have changed here.
But her salary is generated to be paid out of Plat Map maintenance.
Yes.
That's been a game for 30 years
Yes.
of having it, because it's a fee-based, and as technology goes, sometimes it changes, and the assessor offered to pick that up a few years back, correct?
Correct.
So now, but she's your employee, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm just not sure how long we can, with this fund will sustain, but we'll keep an eye out on it.
Yeah. It's always been a
and
tossing
forth.
ball. Anybody had any other questions for your auditor? No?
Hearing none.
Well, Elizabeth, Mr. Dittmers is your liaison, so he's your go-to person, as
Lucky
well as
you,
the rest
right?
of us.
I
But,
got his number.
okay.
Thanks.
And next up is your recorder she's on page 19. Hi, Teresa.
Hi, Teresa Petro, County Recorder. First thing, the budget, 25 proposed budget, mine appears to be missing from the 24, 36,000. I had 36,000 in under the 1154, 32,000, and it's not in here. So I don't have a 54% increase, it should just be 4. I'm not sure what happened there. I can look at it with Amy later, but my proposed budget was 111,000, it's going up to 115,400, so just wanted to address that first. So I have slight increases, more or less 6.5%. I sent everyone a letter, the same information that I'm going to give you today, to give you time to look at it in the review period. That should help you out as to why. The recorder's office positions are under other similar offices. I've worked in the clerk's office, the auditor's office. We are also cutting a position this year. We had for 3 years with the increased recordings and property sales and everything. We went up to an additional, but we're going to go back down to 4 full-time besides the recorder and the chief deputy. So that's going to save about $46,000. We also have started investing our perpetuation account. We do have a large balance. We should be collecting around $44,000 for a 7-month CD. We will continue to do that as long as our account's healthy and we don't have to use it for the perpetuation, any upgrade of our systems, things like that. So that's adding about $90,000 to our budget. The budget this year is actually under between 9 and 10% total budget. And also a reminder, we are an independent. We do fully fund down to, paper clips and everything, health insurance, perf, everything from the recorder's perpetuation account. And I'm very willing to do that ordinance and sworn statement to continue to do that. We also add to around close to $1 million every year to the between funding that perpetuation account and adding to the general fund. So, and there, you know, a lot of things on there. So I've also, so I included in your stuff I sent you the reported collections in every account that we collect for. I just want to bring my people up to, like, we're still under a little bit what the other similar offices, such as the clerk, assessor, auditor, treasurer, what they are paid. I had one person that left, went to the auditor's office, and just $2,000. But when you're young and newly married, and $2,000 means a lot. We've all been there. And I just feel like my retention, I don't have a big turnover, but money is a factor. It's not a lot. There's an explanation in there of why I'm asking a little bit more than the 5% for my position and the chief deputies. You know, it was back in, when I took over office, that budget was, there was a 1% increase when everybody else had a 4 to 5. So that did that. Same thing with chief deputy. So just asking you to look at your packet, consider my request. I do have an increase in the travel training. I've been on the couple committees for property fraud and indexing to help property fraud. So I intend to go to a few of those PREA conferences this year, so that will increase. And I was way under a lot of the elected officials' training fund requests in the past few years, so that's it.
That doesn't affect the general fund, though. I mean,
Does not
yeah.
affect, we collect
So
for
that's pretty
that,
much-
it goes in, and that
right.
is for certain elected officials' travel and training, but that does not affect, most of what we do does not affect general fund. And like I said, we'll actually be under budget the last few years this year with my request.
First of all, I want to tell you, great job. And I did review all the information that you sent. I've got a couple of questions, and then we'll take turns. Your overtime and your part-time, at this point, you have about 90% of it left. Do you think you've over-budgeted for that, or do you think that you'll use it? Do you think going forward you'll need that or more?
Probably not knowing what the housing industry and the, you know, mortgage and house sales was going to do, we kept it the same. Recordings are down, but you have to remember the last 3 years were increased by 150%
Yeah.
up to 200. So, and all of the offices see that in there. So I only use one part-time. She works on projects with my project manager. It's all historical, back indexing to make it easier for title searchers. Overtime, we just don't allow it. I
Okay.
mean, we really try to keep that down. I didn't know that I had any in overtime.
I
know part-time-
could have looked at it wrong, so go back and
Yeah,
look
I
at
know
it.
part-time that I did, and we have one part-time person but we do have college students that help in the summer. It helps them, it helps us. You know, they come back a lot of times for Christmas. My part-time person is looking at possibly some health issues that we might have to replace her. Don't know at this time, but, you know, we're always looking at that. So we want to keep people in there for part-time things. And that helps too. When you have a small department, managing vacations and time off gets a little tricky sometimes. So we can call those part-time people in just to, you know, answer the phone, do some general data entry and managing the counters, helping people know where to go. Because a lot of times our office is the first point of contact when they bring in a recording.
I noticed that, and I'm sure you'll tell me what it is, but equipment repair and maintenance is up by 400%? Was that correct?
Equipment repair. Under which,
I didn't write it
under
down.
the which one?
I did.
36th 36,000.
Under the 1154.
Yeah, 1157.
Contractual services is, let's see.
It says
I-
F&E's annual support plan.
Yeah.
I was to say, that's, I don't see
Okay.
Yeah,
that.
that's not.
Okay,
I
so
don't see that.
that must have been an hour 50, Michelle. Okay.
Not me. I can-
Wrong page.
And your your perpetuation fund, those are perpetuation fee fund,
Fee-based, yeah.
yeah, fee-based. Thank you for managing those as well as you do. We certainly appreciate that. I have looked in the other counties and see how they do it.
Yeah.
You do a phenomenal job and the county appreciates it. I, for one, look at county taxpayer dollars as taxpayer dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Whether they're fee-based, whether they're income tax, or whether they're real estate tax, whether they pay for a deed or whether they pay for their property taxes. So I look at it as one bucket. It's still money coming from the taxpayer's pocket. So thank you for
Sure.
managing it in what I think most would feel would be appropriate. So thank you.
You have a elimination of a deputy recorder position.
Yes. We increased it in 2020 to an additional person because of the crazy workload. And we don't need it. It makes it a little more difficult to manage vacations and time off if you have only four full-time. But we just feel it's not good use of the money. We don't need it. We want to, I like to keep my people busy at work, busy and learning stuff, and they're all completely cross-trained, so if one person's gone, everybody can pick up the slack and do their job, so.
Anybody else? Thank you, Teresa.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, we have our treasurer. She's on page 18, and I am Michelle's liaison. Teresa, yours is John Eddy, in case you didn't know. Okay.
Good afternoon. Michelle Ann Graves, I don't know, are we announcing who we are?
You go
County
ahead.
treasurer.
We all know who you are, but you
Just
go
in
ahead.
case. So yes, I am asking today to send to Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy a current job description for review. And that is due to a discovery that an omission of a title may have had an impact on the job classification. Again, this is not asking for a reclassification, just a review. And I would like to ask that this take place as soon as possible, so if there has been an error that can be corrected, we know it before first reading.
Is that all you want to present?
No, are there any questions on that?
I jumped ahead of myself on the 400%.
Yes, because I know I do have 3 line items that are above the suggested increases, and I can explain those, but this request, I need to know if I can send that to Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy. I would like to do it this afternoon or tomorrow morning if possible.
Well, we're not taking any votes here today on anything, so to get an answer today would be no. But I'm not sure when the appropriate place would be, if it would be on the regular council meeting agenda. There's 63 people other than you that have asked for reviews of their job descriptions. So, but today's meeting, there's not any votes or any motions taken, so.
What's the normal procedure?
Yeah, I would like to ask for an exception to the position of waiting, simply because this request was discovered because of an error that I made in 2019. This isn't a request of changing job duties. This was an omission, the dropping of a title on a job description that I think had a negative impact on that classification. The longer we wait to correct it, the more egregious it becomes. In the past, we used to send these requests to Barb Davis, the county coordinator, who would then send them on to Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy. I did attempt to do that this April so that we would have this information prior to the submissions of the 25 budget. But with the new contract that the council signed with Wagner and Irwin, WIS, just to keep it short, with the new contract that the council signed with WIS, there are 2 members of the council who are allowed to submit those requests, rather than an entire council vote. We've limited that decision to just 2 people. And that is why I'm bringing it forward to you today. I have made attempts to get this addressed prior to today and prior to the submission of budgets, but the process changed, and it changed without anyone really knowing on the elected official or department head level that that had changed.
Could I interrupt just a second? You're an elected official. You could do it, right? You could go right to him.
Not with the contract that the council has. I would have to get my own contract with WIS, and then yes, I could. I think another side to this, when my initial request in April, I did offer to spend the $150 charge out of the treasurer's budget.
I guess I'm not understanding if this happened in 2019, and why are we now still?
So when I didn't realize, took office in 2017, so I dropped a title change. I dropped the bookkeeper title. And we all know now that that can have a negative impact on a classification. Didn't catch the error until the council asked for new job descriptions in 2023. And that's when it became made aware, and then I made the steps to try to get it corrected before today. So I'm kind of asking for an exception here in order to quickly remedy a possible situation that needs attention.
I'll ask the council, does it make sense to amend the agenda for this evening's meeting and discuss this there and get it?
Well, I think at this point, we need to go to legal and see whose decision this is, as to whether we change it or we
Legal
send
will
it
be there.
tonight.
And I'd like to know who are the 2 people on the council that.
Could you hold on for a moment, please? Adam, where do we go from here? Please, can you help
So
us?
the designees, I believe, are John Dittmer's and it's either Ron Deere or Ron Deere. So those are the 2 that were designated primarily to focus with the personnel committee and all of that.
Can you move your microphone over?
Yep. Sorry. So, part of the reason why there's no votes being taken today is this is budget related. So no votes on the budget because they haven't been advertised. So the council could today, right now, if they wanted to very quickly take a vote to direct either of the designees to send this to WIS, they could. You could add it under new and old business tonight. If you want to keep this thing moving to focus just on budget workshops to tackle treasurer's request tonight, you could do it that way as well. But
Adam, do we have the authority to do that outside of specific committee or council action? Or does every request like this take a vote by the entire council?
I don't think it would take, because I mean, that's going to bog down
Right.
everything, especially since the council only meets, once a month kind of thing. I at one point in time, the council president, I think this was last year, was tapped to be the person people go through. I think we've done away with that. So if the council is comfortable, not for every single person wants a reclassification, this is just a one-off review that, especially if they're willing to pay for it, or out of your own budget, cover the 150, just to take a look at this specific one, you could. It also may open the door where everyone's gonna start asking for these, right now kind of thing. So it's ultimately, it's your discretion, it's your contract, if you deem the request
Well, I don't think
with
that
merit right now.
everyone applies, but I do think that elected officials apply.
So as the president of this council, my question to you is, do I have the authority not to take any votes today? And can this be moved to under old and new business at tonight's meeting? Or is this something that just haphazardly, if everyone chooses to do that, that's what we do?
I would default to just have it be tonight, would be kind of my gun to my head decision there, yeah.
Okay, that way it will give the other 63 people the opportunity, if they choose to have theirs reviewed as well, they have that same opportunity, rather than making a decision at this moment. So,
Let's clarify what happened here is that to make the contract with WIS streamlined. You granted the authority to John Dittmers and I to review requests, not 64 requests, but, any request for a new position. Which is not a new position. But, we were not reviewing modifications to existing positions, correct, John?
It is, I think the exception that I'm hearing Michelle say is there's an error in this one. It's not necessarily one that has been live and healthy. There's an error.
And if
Or
I,
are you making modifications to something that was already in place?
there
Which is-
isn't, the error, there is a big error in the job title. We dropped a job title, and I think it had an effect on the classification. Once we caught that, we did add additional education requirements. But the problem is that the title was dropped. The title of bookkeeper was omitted from the job
So
classification.
there was an omission in a revised
error,
description is what
yes.
I'm hearing, right?
Yes. And then I would also say, and I would ask for Adam to comment on this, I don't believe that the way the contract was written, the verbiage that I read, is that there are only two people who can reach out and be the contact between the county and WIS. I don't know that council ever said these are the only two people who can decide whether we send in for a review. I thought that was an entire council request. So I don't know, Adam, do you remember?
Let me pull up the agreement.
But I would be happy to come back tonight under old and new business, because again, it is an error, and it was on my part, and it was because of being new and not realizing how it all worked. And we didn't find it till November of last year.
Why don't we do this, so we're not, everyone just staring at me as I read multiple contracts. Why don't we move on? If we're gonna take up the request tonight anyway, that'll give Tiffany and I time just to review the
Yeah.
3 or 4 different contracts we have.
That would be great.
that way we
And
just
then you
move
could
this
come
thing
back tonight
forward.
under new and
Yes.
old business.
And then if we could, because this would be helpful, not just for me, but for all directors and elected officials, we need to have a very clear process of how these things happen, how we move forward with them, because I didn't know in April that we didn't just go through Barb anymore. So
Yeah.
if we could work on that as a group, that would be very helpful.
Correct, and it has been discussed numerous times, and I think in that process of discussion, it's kind of gotten blown out and contorted and
Yeah.
going to do it this way, and no, that's not working, we're going to go back and do it this way.
I would
And so I
agree.
remember the verbiage was put the toothpaste back in the tube. So hopefully, having the complete job studies done for next year, it'll give everybody that avenue and that tool that they need moving forward.
And then this is just an
And I
exception.
specifically remember talking to you and working with you on, before on the job title change and so, in the job that person does. So we all know up here, it's nothing new, that, you've been talking to us and you've sent us information. So come back tonight under new and old business, and then
Sure.
It'll give Tiffany time to look at some stuff and see where we've come from. And
Thank
it'll
you.
give others opportunities to see if they're in the same boat.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So that aside, I have 3 line items that you probably have questions about. The first line item that went above suggested guidelines would be the printing, account 31200. That went up by $1,000. We have started to purchase and print paper checks for payroll. And we have found with our new software that it is more easy to correct any errors in a payroll with a paper check via waiting 2 more weeks for an electronic deposit into someone's account. And that's the increase for that line item.
Okay. I don't think you really have much control over that, though. That's kind of the cost of
None.
doing business, correct?
The other big increase we have is postage. I just looked this up today. Since January of 2023 to July of '24, postage has gone up 14 cents. It's now 73 cents. So again, we need an extra $2,500 to send out tax statements this year. Can't control it.
I understand.
The third and final line item that increased over suggested guidelines you asked the recorder about, and that is in our equipment and repair and maintenance fund, account 36,000. The treasurer's office is taking advantage of all new technology that is available for processing property tax payments. This is a new machine we have that creates electronic payment files. It's called a remote deposit capture machine, and it will cost approximately $3,700 a year in annual fees to maintain that.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions for Michelle? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And a quick update, it was at your March meeting that the council tapped Mr. Dittmers and Mr. Deere as the point of contacts for the contracts. That doesn't necessarily mean they're the final decision maker on what goes, so that probably does need to still be hammered out. We can do that tonight, but at your March meeting, you used when you just.
Yeah, as a point of contact.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Can we take that?
Yeah, we're going to take a 10-minute break here, just run to the restroom, and Michelle has beat me down. So to run to the restroom, so we'll convene again about 20 till, quarter till. Again. Next up is our clerk, my pickleball buddy.
Hello.
Hi.
Trina McLaughlin, clerk.
Yep, page 15.
I have a couple of items that I wanted to bring to your attention. One is we pay for a full-time employee out of our clerk's record perpetuation fund. And we have done some rearranging with employees, and I have moved a 12-year employee into that position now. And I do not want to cut her salary down. So I was just trying to bring that up to what her 5% raise would be for this year. That's my one item. And then,
Can you explain that a little more to me? You had a job that was open, and you're moving a seasoned employee in there?
yes.
And it was already paying that $49,099, is that what it was?
No, it was
paying $43,460.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So now you're moving a seasoned employee that was making,
46,761, and then with the 5%, that would be 49,099.
so you're paying her 5% of her existing salary, but because you're moving it to another position, it's reflecting 13% of that
Correct.
existing salary?
That's correct.
So technically, it's 13 on paper, but it's 5 for her overall income,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Okay, I just
Now,
want to,
Is it coming entirely out of perpetuation?
Yes.
And where is it coming out of? I don't see a negative anywhere on the county general.
Well, she's, we
what
had
job
another.
was she in?
She was in 101, general fund, and then we're moving her to clerk's perpetuation.
No, but what account, what line item for in county general?
What number went to?
11301.
301?
11301, okay.
Yes,
But that shows you still got another 5% increase to that salary.
Is someone else
correct.
in there?
yes.
Okay.
Okay. So you've switched around, just done a switch?
Yes.
Right, okay. But it still reflects the 5% on their actual salary from what they were making last year to what they're making this year?
Correct.
Okay.
So is it better referred to as position?
Sure. Any other questions on that?
No, I've looked at all your line items. See your travel and training is up, but again, that doesn't affect the general fund, and that's pretty much mandated for what you is needed for the office, so I don't have any questions. Does anyone here have any questions?
I saw you added 3,200 for postage and there hadn't been a postage line item before. What was
Yes.
just the reason for that?
So we mail our passports through a third party, which is Midwest Presort. We have lost not we, but someone has lost some passport applications that never made it to the passport agency. So since we don't put postage on them here, they go through the third party for whatever reason. We've had a few that have been lost, that have never been received by the passport agency. We just had a passport person in last Thursday. Technically, in order for us to be able to accept passports, the only people that can take these to the post office would either be a postman themselves or any of my employees that have been through the acceptance training can take those to the post office. We feel like this is a better way for us to track. We want to be able to do this service to citizens of Johnson County. We do process quite a few passports. We're really, along with the Franklin Post Office, I think we're about the only two in the county and in surrounding counties that do accept passports. So we thought better to add a line item so that we can take these directly to the post office ourselves.
So you're not using that third-party vendor anymore, you're just doing it yourself?
Only for passports. We would still use them for all of our
Okay.
other regular mail.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay?
Anybody else? Great job.
Okay.
Thank you for
One more
staying.
thing.
Oh, I'm sorry, I must have missed something. Go
No,
ahead.
you're fine. So there was a new law that took effect July 1st, and I guess I shouldn't say it's a new law because it's been around. Indiana Code 3-7-12-22 states that where the circuit court clerk serves as a voter registration officer, the clerk is entitled to receive a per diem compensation. The per diem shall be paid out of the general fund of the county in the same manner in which election expenses are paid. And that per diem is up to $2,500. And a salary ordinance would have to be amended if you so choose to give me that per diem.
And it's statute, correct?
Doesn't say- It doesn't say
Shall or
shall.
will?
It doesn't say shall.
And you've asked for, I didn't see it in here, where is it?
I just submitted it to you. Like, I just found out about this after I had already
so it's
submitted the budget.
It's not in your
No.
budget? And so you're.
So in 2025, there's not an election. So it only states when there is a general election that the per diem can be paid.
Is it just a one-time payment, or would it be?
I think that would be up to the council.
But wouldn't that be in your 2026 budget if you don't have the election this year?
So, well, we do have an election this year. So that could be, I think you would have to amend a salary ordinance in order for that to happen this year. Next year, we wouldn't do that. And then 2026, then we would request it in that budget also.
Okay. And you say you submitted it after the budget. Did you put it,
I just found out about it after the budget.
Oh, but I'm asking you, have you submitted anything to us in writing to explain that? I don't
No.
recall seeing anything, so
No.
this is the first we've heard about it.
Okay.
Okay, well, if you'd like to submit something to all of us, to take that under consideration, we'll be
Okay.
happy to look at it.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Thank you.
thank you. That's why I didn't see you were done, I didn't see it on your budget. Okay.
Teresa, could you put in your letter how it's gonna help you? Can you hear me? I'm sorry. Trina?
How it's gonna help me?
Yeah.
Add her
To
pay.
this
$2,500.
Well, to this election cycle,
It's
For
goes,
this election cycle?
yes.
isn't this pay directly coming to you? It's not for the office to use, right? This is for you, a per diem, that's money in your, I mean, that's given to you, right? Right. Okay.
What state representative do you know?
And Trina, do you know how many other counties have utilized this?
I do not.
Okay. Okay, sorry, Sheena. All right, next we have Unified Courts, and I am the liaison for them, and it's page 25 to 30-something. And I will tell you that we've spent many hours working on this with several different people. Sheena has done a great job in presenting it in past practice runs. So I'm going to turn it over to her, and and,
Thank you. Sheena Johnson, Court Administrator. I am presenting for the first time a unified budget. So all 7 court budgets are rolled into the 2025 budget. We're hoping that will be more efficient. And no offense, but I'm hoping I'll see less of you next year, coming back to ask for additional appropriations with lots of more flexibility. The numbers, I derived them using the 2024.
can you lean in, Sheena? I can hardly.
2024, oh,
There you
that's
go.
much larger, louder, okay. I derived the numbers using the 2024 expenditures to date, which was at that time April 30th. And I also used the expenditures for the whole of 2023 to kind of determine what I need to use. Right now, each court reporter does their own, does their own claims at least. I've been helping with the budget since I've been in this position. They all pay things a different right way. So I'm hoping to standardize it, so you'll see a little bit of moving and shaking on that part, because I want to be consistent. As far as other changes besides the unified part, we're eliminating a position in circuit court budget, which of course is the entire budget now. We're asking for an additional full-time public defender, and I have a salary grid that I inherited it, actually, the judges came up with prior to me coming on, that I've used some of the funds from the eliminated position to recalibrate that grid to make it as intended back in 2021. So those are my main changes. Does anybody have any questions?
I have an arm load, but I've asked him in the past.
Go ahead. I'll find the answers then.
So I'm gonna refrain. I feel like I'm doing most of the asking up here, so I'm gonna refrain. This does involve 6 budgets, and so I'm gonna refrain and go last and let anybody else that has any questions that I'm sure will be redundant of some of the ones that I'm going to ask, so we'll let everybody else
When I
go.
read your letter, your email, I thought it was a really good idea. I thought that, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Why wasn't this done earlier?
I don't know. Right now, you've got a group of judges who are all on board, ready to share the load, so to speak. I'm going to be doing claims going forward, so we'll see how that goes. Sorry. Yeah, I know. Right? 3 cheers for that. So, like I said, hopefully it'll be more efficient. I'll have fewer requests in the middle of the year and a little
Right.
bit more flexibility. That's what I'm looking for.
Yep. That's all I had.
Okay.
Go
Thank you.
ahead, Pam.
Well, actually, I don't have any notes up here because I have a whole book put away where we talked on. There's only 2 things, if you look at all of these budgets, that might stand out to the normal person that's
Okay.
looking at those, and that is the 2, is it court reporters? Which position did you eliminate?
Oh, let's see. It should be zeroed out. No, it's not. I don't know if it shows on yours.
Is it court reporter?
Assistant.
Yeah, but
Assistant?
we changed all of the, it's the former 11316 in the circuit court
Yeah.
budget, which was $49,923 this year.
So there were 3, and now there's 2.
There were 5 and now there's 4.
And now there's 4?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that was the hard part for me to understand. So I want to walk through it and make sure that I understand it
Sure.
thoroughly. There were 5, and now there's 4.
Correct, in
There was a
circuit.
grid established, and I checked with Amy today, and we couldn't come up with the year that it was established, but it's been for a while, that those people would be paid first year, 3rd year, 5th year, however the grid went.
Right.
And throughout the process of the years, that has gotten off kilter.
Right.
So last year, when public safety, the courts, when we tried to bring all those back, those 5 positions were not brought back to that grid.
Okay.
Correct?
Yeah, let me make sure that we're on the same page. So we eliminated one of the 5 court reporter positions in circuit court. Okay, the grid is 3 tiers. It's a court reporter, which is a comment 4, And it's assistant court reporters, which are COMET 3s.
There you go.
There's 3 tiers though. So the 2 tiers for the assistant court reporters are those with 5 years' experience in the county versus those who do not have 5 years. So a starting court reporter salary. So those are the 3 levels.
And the reason I bring that up is because it does reflect, I think, 7% for the individuals for those raises.
That's correct.
But that's after eliminating the 5th position and bringing those to what the grid needs to be.
Correct.
More, kind of like the way, yes, they switched some of the positions.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Okay.
It's an overall increase to the 100 series of 3.62%.
Okay. And your overall 100 series was below the actual 5%, correct?
Right, 3.62%.
Yeah, 3.62%
Yep.
for the over 100 series.
Correct.
Okay, I just know it was topical for me combining them all, so
Yeah.
that's all I wanted to clarify,
Okay.
so.
And I did have to make a couple of predictions. You know, we've got a judge retiring this year. We'll have a new judge in Superior 1, and maybe, depending on how things go, we could have a new magistrate judge as well, depending on our election. So had to make some guesstimates based on those. But hope you'll give me some grace next year if I messed it up.
Okay, all right.
So I want to thank you
You're welcome.
for what, good move. I always have trouble when we in government make a big transition. Big change. There's always something in the transition that gets lost. And it's all, it's something that's going to come back to bite us later on. I'm concerned about the revenue stream. Should I be?
As
We
far,
got CASA in here and Vasia and we
Okay.
got money coming from different places.
sure. So you want to talk about the 1,200 and 2,501? As
Is
far
that
as.
part of this?
And, no. So when I did the unified budget, I only unified the general fund expenditures. I thought that would be a good place to start, and who knows, maybe next year I'll be standing up there going, that went really well, let's combine all of them, but we're not doing that as of yet. As far as the 2501, that's the Public Defender Service Supplement, those expenditures have not decreased. We were just outpacing with our spending. So I'm not concerned about the revenues in 2501. I was just concerned about how fast we were spending it. So,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other takers? You got off easy.
I guess.
I have drilled you for a
Don't jinx me.
month.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sheena. Community Corrections, Juvenile. Okay. Lori and Damon. Page, oh, wait a minute. Christie, I jumped ahead of myself. Christie, page 48. Thank you, Amy.
Okay, hi, I'm Christy Brother. I'm the Director of Juvenile Detention. Just wanted to first off say thank you for last year, for the generous and what we considered necessary raises that were given based on the hard work we did in the juvenile justice system, working with, in collaboration with the Sheriff's Office for our poll positions, for those safety and security positions. The budget you're going to look at now is outside of the guidelines that were presented, and we are in a position to be consistent with what the Sheriff's Office is somewhat presenting, I think. Last year, we worked really hard on a grid with merit officers and safety security officers, making that the baseline. And so we are asking for raises within our correctional officers to kind of mirror that, to kind of stay on that same trajectory. I want to say thank you again. As a result of what you did last year, the detention center stays fully staffed. And, that is a testimony to you and to give it back to the employees here. I think it's also a testimony to what we're doing inside the detention center with being trauma-informed, focusing on staff wellness and doing those things. In this budget, I am asking for 5 additional positions. That would give me 4 additional correctional officers and another teacher in order to raise the capacity within the detention center to 36 instead of 24. The estimated cost is around $300,000 to you in terms of salaries and expenses. The anticipated revenue would be near $700,000 if we were to be able to fill that and raise per diem. There are currently 17 detention centers in the state of Indiana, us being one of them. Only 12 of them take out-of-county youth, us being one of those 12. We get phone calls daily to take out-of-county youth, which is a way for the county to generate income. We do say no quite often because we do not have the staffing and have the resources that we need. So this budget reflects that. If you say no, totally understand that. We will continue to do what we're doing in the capacity that we're doing it in. The other increases that you will see is within supplies and operating expenses. That is in food. That is to manage an increase in the number of youth. In contractual services, we contract with Dr. Calvelman. We are asking for a small increase in that contract. That is signed by the commissioners in December. We're looking at increasing that to $5,500 a month to offset some of the additional liability insurance that he's required to carry with being there. He is on call 24 hours a day. We have a licensed nurse in the facility twice a day to do sick call, prescription stuff. That line item, contractual services, also needs to be increased in order to handle payment for our yoga and art therapy and some of our counseling services. We get about $120,000 from Title I through the Department of through the Franklin School Corporation. They had changed the way that they need to process payments for these extra services. They used to be able to pay the contractor directly. Now they need me to pay it, and then they will reimburse the county, and it'll go back into the general fund. So that's the other reason for the increase in the contractual services. It's similar to the way they pay our salaries. So we have 2 licensed teachers at the detention center, and in April, I send an invoice to the school, and they in turn cut a check to the general fund. That doesn't go back into my budget, it just goes into the general fund banking account, and that's anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 a year to help pay for those 2 teachers. If we are able to increase our numbers, then the number of Title I grants could also potentially increase. That's later down the road, so of that revenue that I mentioned. Landfill services has increased this year. I think you've heard, the commissioners I know for sure have seen the increases in the invoices. We are changing companies countywide, and so that line item I increased by 30-some%. We could probably go back down to the original 24 amount. It looks like it went up 32%. It was only $800, but that could probably go back down. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention before I answer your questions, and I wanted to say thank you to the commissioners for putting some resources and time into our building. They have allowed us to use some bond monies to do some much needed repairs. And we're also in the phase of expanding our non-secure space to have additional classrooms. And so we're very grateful and thankful for that as we continue to grow and provide services for the youth of Johnson County.
I don't think that could have been any clearer. Anybody want to go first? The positions that you are basing on like positions throughout the county, on other budgets, based on our recommendations and guidelines from last year.
Yes, ma'am.
To keep employees from leaving here to go here to go here to go here. It's given those like jobs straight across the board, equal pay is what we did last year. So I'm hearing you say that these that are showing higher than the 5% is assuming the others will be raised and you're doing it to match. So
Yes.
you also know that if that doesn't happen, it will go to 5%. I'm sure you were probably expecting that,
Yes, ma'am.
correct?
I understand that.
Okay.
I was curious, this mental health specialist position that you have, is that, who is that? Is that a counselor or what is that?
Yes, it's a master's level with a specialized degree in yoga therapy. It meets the classifications within the salary study. And again, we last year decided on a grid so that each of those three specialist positions would keep a specific gap in between based on education and requirements and that type of thing. So rather, like, that's the only trouble with percentage raises. In the past, I've oftentimes taken the percentages that you give us and go through lump sum raises among positions, because once you keep giving percentages, each gap gets bigger, right? If you're already making more, you keep getting more, and that gap grows. So like when I had, at one point in time, we had tiers of, similar to what court reporters are doing, we had 1-year employees, 5-year employees, 10-year employees, and so like each year I would take the amount you gave me and give, $1,500 to this group, $2,000 to this group, still staying within the guidelines, so that those gaps stayed the same, consistent. So for this mental health specialist, we agreed that there would be a specific gap based on the level of education. And so you'll see that person didn't get the full 5% because we want the top tier to get the full 5%. So that's the reason why, and the difference in percentages there. That wasn't as clear as my other stuff.
No, but strangely, I think we followed it.
Okay, and the hand motion.
Any other questions?
Yeah, the justification for additional correction officers, what was the justification for
So the justification for that is so that we can increase the capacity of the number of youth that we take. We currently have a soft cap of 24 based on staffing. Back in 2012, we reduced our staffing to accommodate the 9% decrease that was required at that time for the budget. When there's so many kids in the building, you need so many staff members to take care of them. And so if I can put another line person, another correctional officer on the floor, then we could increase the number of kids that we serve in Johnson County and outside of county, which does generate revenue for the county. And then I would need the fifth position is a teacher. We have an average of 12 in the classrooms. And then so we would need a third teacher to cover the additional 12 kids.
All right, so this question has come up before, that are Johnson County youth causing the need for the 4, or Johnson County youth only causing need for 2? And are we, when we accept from outside of the county, I know it's a revenue stream, but are we spending more on providing the service than we're getting back in revenue?
I don't believe so. It costs roughly $300 a day to house a youth in the detention center. And it's about $300 a day whether I have 1 kid in there or I have 24, right? So if we add the extra 12, it's going to go up a little bit, but I think that the return on investment is going to be better by upping that number. The numbers do fluctuate between how many Johnson County kids we have, how many out-of-county kids we have. If we have less Johnson County, then we'd have more out-of-county because we got to keep it at that 24. The Johnson County numbers have increased over the last few years, and they continue to rise. And so if we don't increase the numbers, then I think we're going to see a decrease in the revenue because we won't be able to accept as many out-of-county youth.
Did you have a question?
So my opinion, I'm going to forward here, is this is an investment in our community, because this is trauma-based and this is our children. So my feeling is that it's a good investment. And it's one of those things, what's the word I want to use? You can't put your hands on it. But it's something that out there in the future, it's going to be a payback of sometimes exponential that we really can't put our hands around. But I do believe, and this is my opinion, that it's a good investment for this council and for this county, and it's for our children.
I just want to ask, so you want to bring on more people so that we can take on more kids from outside the county?
Yes.
Not necessarily outside the county, but take on more kids in general.
In general.
And outside the county? Okay, so you're getting calls from outside the county because they don't have enough room in their facility, or what?
So there's 92 counties in the state of Indiana, and only 17 counties have facilities, and only 12 of them accept youth outside of their own county. So there's just not enough detention beds currently. I know Tippecanoe County just went through a needs study, and they are going to build a facility. That should be open, I would guess, in the next 2 years. Bartholomew County is doing a similar study now. The need exists for secure beds, and we do it close to the best in the state of Indiana. And I want to continue to provide that level of service, continue to be able to be providing that level of programming, and continue to serve the youth of Johnson County as well as the surrounding counties. Right now, we've had this year, or including last year, serviced 50 different counties from across the state of Indiana. They've asked us to take their kids, and that's what we've done. So,
Christy, if memory serves me right, in the past, didn't you have several positions that lay dormant because you could not fill them?
We did.
We went for years, understaffed, not enough people there.
Yes.
So what's the big change going from, I can't find boots on the ground for this, to now needing, not only are those, I'm assuming all filled, but now you need 5 more?
yeah. I think it is a combination of the pay, which is thanks to you and the sheriff and the folks doing the hard work of getting that number up in terms of pay. We've also been very focused on staff wellness and the wellness of the youth. We are a TBRI site, which is trauma-based relational intervention. So we are doing everything based on evidence-based research, taking care of our people, including the staff and the youth inside the facility.
And you fully believe this will be a turnaround of funds? If you do X, then Y and Z is going to happen?
I can't predict the future. That is what the estimated revenue shows.
Okay, fair enough. Anybody else? Thank you. Now we have Lori and Damon.
Hello, Lori Myers, Juvenile Community Corrections Director.
I don't have that page number written down, I'm sorry.
My assistant director here.
Damon Cox.
All right, so our budget, when you look at it on paper, is always very complicated for folks to wrap their heads around. So when you look at your sheet, and we're talking specifically the general fund or lit account, you're going to see very inflated percentages. That is because our base salaries for all of our staff comes from our DOC grant, but that's a fixed amount. That every year it's the same exact fixed amount. So any increases each year, whether it's 5% or whatever, is cumulative, and it builds and it builds, so those percentages look.
Hang on, Lori, I didn't have the page number for them. I
Oh,
think
I'm
they're
sorry.
still digging for the page
Yeah.
number. Did you find it? 47? Thank you. I was open on page 47. Okay, Lori, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So we have to take what the DOC base amount of salary is and the increase and the previous year's increases, add those together. I can tell you that we have stayed with those combined annual salaries within the 5% guideline, with only 2 exceptions. So everything has stayed within the guideline. Again, going back to the Justice Court Services grid that we presented last year, one of those increments that we had agreed on then was that the assistant directors would remain $17,500 below the director range in that grid. In order to do that, the assistant director in this budget is at 6.1% instead of 5%, to follow that same philosophy. And then the only other exception beyond the 5% guideline is our field officers. We have 2 of them. That turns out to be, again, an agreed upon what we estimate the merit deputies would be $15,000 less than that for our field officers, and that puts them at a 9% increase. So those are the only 2, I think, budget differences. We are asking out of our project income to raise the part-time rate from 20 to 20, up to 21. Not everybody that we hire will be at that rate, but we could pay up to $21 an hour, and that's to keep some equity between, if you have two instructors, one's a part-time, one's a full-time instructor teaching the same class, that there's at least some nearness to what the two of them are receiving in compensation to do the same similar job. So I will leave that part for your questions at this point, and I'll go into more detail if you need me to.
I just want to reiterate as Christie was, some of these with the higher, except for the one that's the 6%, are based on like positions that was agreed across the county board. So, so you're basing that on what the biggest ask is going to be?
Correct.
So, okay, just so you realize in all probability that will change.
We understand.
Okay. I don't have anything else for Lori. If anybody else has anything, or Damon.
There were some changes. Youth care manager changed title to correction officer. Youth care several. What are those title changes?
Yeah, that's just
Yeah.
housekeeping.
Oh.
We don't have a title.
That's,
I'm sorry.
that's Christie, and I think that's just housekeeping, isn't it?
Is that all?
Yeah, I think he wants to hear that from Christie.
I went one page too far.
That's
Sorry.
okay. Yeah, that's just housekeeping, just making sure all of the line items are classified and titled the same way.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. And now we have Mrs. Morris.
Okay, you've got 2 hours.
Talk fast.
Hi, I'm Angela Morris. I'm Director of Court Services and Chief Probation Officer. I have met with my liaison in depth. We've gone over, I have 6 funds. Do you guys have the page numbers, or do you want the fund numbers?
They start on page 39, don't they? And go through page 45, I believe. Okay.
Okay. First off, you'll see lots of title changes. Those are for administrative purposes only. After I have like 90 employees, 37 probation officers. I need them numbered because they all had the same title at one point, and I think it's gonna be easier for us. Same with the correction officers. There's like 16, so we needed them numbered to go in conjunction with the account numbers being different. So I'll start with Fund 1001. All of our salaries stayed within the 5% guidelines. Any raise you see above the 5% is based on the state mandated longevity for probation officers only. I think most of you have been through this with me long enough to know those statutes and what they mandate us doing. However, in the 1001, for transparency purposes, you're gonna see a field officer in there, the same that Lori just talked about and Christie. That chart that we created last year with the criminal justice system, that account number is 11431. It is higher than the 5%. So as I say, we stayed within the guidelines. I didn't want you to see one above it and think I was trying to slide it in there or something.
So again, that's assuming based on the highest request that's yet to come up. And if that changes, that will change.
Yes. Then if I go to, excuse me, 2101, that fund, that's a supplemental fund. All of those administrative stipends, which are also state mandated for probation officers, I started moving those stipends into a separate fund last year and this year so that those stipends aren't included with the cost of living. I felt the stipends needed to stay the same and not get the cost of living raise that the county gave each year. So you'll see 3 new ones, I believe, this year. They look new, but they're new to that fund, 2101, but they were included in those employees' salaries years past. I'm just pulling them out now. So if you go back to that position, you'll see that base salary decreased by what those stipends are. I didn't have anything for 1122 or 1123.
Hey, Angela, can I ask a question? Based on what you just said, when you consolidate those two in your inside guidelines, you took it away, right? So it was a zero-sum deal, supplemental pay versus a reduced compensation. Is that what I heard you say?
He's asking you the same question I did, and this is the example, John, that she used for me. If, let's say Angela made $100,000 and it was all in her base salary. Well, she took $15,000 all out of that because it was supplemental pay. And she moved it over here and only gave herself the 5% raise on the 85.
So the net
and then-
effect
right,
was
Correct.
on the
right.
base.
You are
All right.
correct.
Okay, thanks.
When I inherited this world in 2019, the stipends were included in the salaries. And I rode with that for a few years because I didn't know what I was doing. So we're taking those out.
Good thing you do now.
Yeah, today I know. So we took them out. And then that way, if people change in those positions too, those supplementals can just be put onto the person.
And those are fee-based, right? The 11,
2101 is a fee-based account.
yeah, and so, I was going somewhere with that. Oh, that's part of the job, right, the supplement?
Yeah,
So
those are
if
state
this
mandated
person is
also.
hired, that's state mandated, it be supplemented. So, but they're only getting the cost of living raise on the base pay, not the supplement.
Correct. And we just changed those last year and this year.
Yeah.
And after this year, they should all be done.
And that was hard for me to wrap my mind
We
around.
did that with the community corrections staff also. They're not state mandated, but we're following the same practices
That's good.
with those.
Questions, anybody?
I have 2 more funds. 1233, I do believe there's a new correction officer being requested. I didn't see new next to it, but I'm telling you it's new. We needed more coverage for a night shift. The supervisor has been covering periodically, but that was causing less time for them to supervise. Right now, we're piloting that position through the DOC grant, but believe it'll still be needed for 2025. It's working out well.
But you do only have the one new position, not 2, correct?
Do you see another one?
I didn't,
I can't.
and I had asked you earlier and you didn't, but, Amy thought maybe she did. Did you see a second position for them? Okay, well, we're gonna go with it's only one and if we run into another one, we'll talk to you
And I'm
about
not
it.
denying there's another one. I'm just saying I don't know where it is right
Okay.
now in these funds.
We'll
So
look
if we
at
find
it.
it, we can talk about it in first reading or.
That'd be fine.
Okay, I don't have anything for 2502. Several accounts you'll see we're asking for less in the 2s, 3s, and 4s. Based off your guys' recommendations, we weren't spending it all each year, so we reduced part-time in a couple of places, overtime. Again, being fully staffed, we're not needing as much as we had before.
And I would like to point out here the fully staffed thing. I think that gives a lot of credit to the county on doing what they've done and bringing those salaries to where they need to be. I no longer think we are the underpaid people in the county world, so that's good to hear. And I think you're like the 3rd or 4th department I've heard that from.
I think part of it too goes to the environment you create inside.
Right.
Inside your workplace. It's not all
100%.
about pay, it's about coming to work and enjoying the people you're with and the environment you're in. So, all we hear is pay, but there's more to it than that, right?
Yeah.
So-
Until you take it away.
The support services, like Christy said, we're focusing on employee wellness this year, and so
Yeah.
that stuff matters.
Sure does.
Okay, I wanted to add something on for the first reading. This is not anywhere in what you have. We're gonna be requesting that the community corrections building utilities come out of lit. Right now, community corrections pays for like their water and electric and gas. I guess it was sustainable years ago. So we've worked with Adam some, the county attorney, and Tiffany's nodding her head. It'll be around $40,000 is what our utilities are a year. And that is those are expenses that can come out of the jail lit.
They're
So,
qualified expenses.
yeah, we're gonna be
Tiffany?
requesting that. I don't have it in there now. You don't see it. Operational. So I just wanted to throw it out today.
So I want to be clear, that's not just for the new facility. You
No,
could use
that's
it
for
as-
what we're doing now, yeah.
Thank you.
And so just to reiterate, the correction officers and field officers that I have and Lori has and Christy has were created in that process last year, that grid. We worked hard on it. I think we had to do it because the criminal justice system, we have over half of the county employees, and there wasn't one created for us. And so the work we did last year, I'd love to see it continued, and to see those percentages. There was a method to the madness. So the base starting at that merit position, I mean, we spent hours and days going above and below to make those positions and salaries mean something. And so come first reading and when sheriff gets up, I would fully support what they're presenting for that merit position, so that the work we did last year that you guys liked and supported and encouraged us to do stays for 2025 also.
Well, and that's a collaboration, right? It's a collaboration of everyone in that system.
Anybody else? Do you have anything else for us, Angela?
2502 part-time, major increase.
2502.
Probation.
Yes. That's one of our fee-based accounts, so we're just hoping that we're putting that in there for part-time, if we have like part-time positions that are needed. I know we took it out of a community corrections position. We reduced part-time there, reduced part-time in the 2101, and then increased it in 2502, because that fund can sustain that amount for 2025 if we use it all.
Well, the only reason I asked that is the unexpended balance as of June 30th was the amount budgeted, which was 20,000, but then it bumped up to 60. So it hasn't been spent this year, but we're asking 3 times that much next year.
I can reduce it or lower it or whatever.
I mean, if we need to, yeah.
Okay.
But the cash balance is still going to be the same because it's a fee-based program, right?
Correct. We have fees court now. We've done 3 of them, I believe, and it is bringing in quite a bit
Can you
more.
use that anywhere else?
Well, it's going into all it pays court costs, probation fees, community corrections fees. We're seeing it mainly in community corrections, the main increase is where most of that's going.
Okay. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the star of the show is?
Well, Wayne Burgess, Johnson County Sheriff. I'm taking a little thunder from my chief deputy. He's had something for his family, so we miss him being here today, but he's got a good script for me to stay on the course with what I've got. But after being discussed post-budget hearing for 2023, council approached $325,000 in additional funding for the lit contract services that took care of our Axon, our tasers, our body cams, interview rooms, and our fleet cameras. Those items that you guys worked with us to have, some of that stuff's being installed now as a game changer for us in law enforcement. And we were one of the first departments in this county to have that equipment, so we appreciate that. Additional appropriation of $20,000 in the extradition fund. We're working with the prosecutor's office hand in hand, picking people up all over the United States for serious crimes, bringing them back here to Johnson County. For the 2024 budget, council approved scaled structure, public safety positions, flat dollar amount instead of a percentage, so that helped us to have a separation from the jail to the merits, its supervisors, so that there's a breakdown. It makes it worth those folks testing, becoming a supervisor, and taking that extra role on within our agency. CIT budget. Get through all this here. Was originally funded through ARPA in 2024. After speaking with the attorneys, the auditor's office, in late July, this was moved from its own budget to general fund due to trying to ease the burden on lit, and I know that's a topic right now. It can be moved somewhere else if the council prefers to have that done. Ideally, this will be funded by one of two already submitted grants. Shannon Chambers is great. She's looking for grants to try to fund and work with us in the CIT. CIT's been a game changer, not only for the sheriff's office, and John T. was a big with that, but throughout Johnson County. Everybody calls us. I mean, he's been a component on that, and we just see that program grow all the time. Lit changes move medical and contractual services from the lit back to general fund. Medical, $1,412,000. Contractual services, $600,000. Current listed in both budget prior to discussion. Food cost in the jail, $682,000. Contractual services going back $250,000 to $600,000, adding the $325,000 in January of '24 for the Axon. Guardian, $37,000 to $50,000. The Faro, $2,300. MD personal software was $4,700. Range maintenance there at our training center is $5,000. Account 12561, correctional officers, promotion to corporal. That's a court transport person, $55,000 to $63,000. Merit rank pay, jail matron, that's a future slide, $17,500. Office supplies would go from $9,000 to $11,000 just due to inflation. Medical, $665,000 to $700,000. July council, $1,365,000 to the contracted QCC quality correctional of $1.4 million and some change. Building repairs, maintenance, $73,500, $100,000 rate increase, Sexton, Irish, Wilson. Everybody's talking about landfill and trash that we have at the jail, $20,000 to $22,000 on that rate. Sheriff pensions for the merit deputies, $1.2 million to $1.3 million, One America. Equipment repairs, $12,000 to $20,000. Office equipment, $21,000, $25,000, that's networking. Merit rank pay upcoming, and I'll go over that here in just a few minutes. We discussed the jail medical and the CIT. Extradition. One of the changes that we want to see within the agency, and I had a discussion with one of the commissioners for Travelers Insurance. It was on Fox 59. They canceled one of the county sheriff's office's insurance because of lack to supervise. We have right now, Andy Barnhart's a lieutenant. That is his merit rank, but he's appointed to be my chief deputy in my administration. Andy Fisher's a sergeant. Over the road, Damian Cott's a sergeant by merit rank and investigations. Matt Reinhardt is a lieutenant in the jail. When they leave, we have to have those positions filled by an acting rank. People still have to test for those. What we're wanting to do is eliminate any acting rank except for chief deputy and the major's positions, because they can be filled by somebody that has a merit rank. I find if you have somebody that is a acting sergeant, acting lieutenant, it may not be to their full potential because they know that they can leave that position if somebody would come back out, and being a supervisor, you have a tendency to upset some people. So then you go back and there's a good chance you want to keep that path going, if that makes sense. But we always want to have a separation where we get rid of that, and we have to have, we won't know until after we get to the budget process if this is something, but we want to completely eliminate any acting rank within the sheriff's office. There are going to be times that we would be heavy. So example, we have 3 majors appointed, most come from within the department, must come from within the department. We have 5 merit lieutenants. That's 1 per road shift, there's 4. And then an investigations lieutenant. Merit sergeants, we have 6. We have 40 merit deputies. The sheriff, the chief, and 3 majors are temporary positions by statute. If they hold merit rank lieutenant and sergeant, they must be put back into that same rank if they would leave. So if Andy Fisher says, hey, I want to go back out to the road, he goes as a sergeant, there's people that's going to lose some rank, and then we've got to move some folks around. When an administration position is done, the results of acting rank to fill those spots on the shifts, the people holding that acting rank are then bumped back down when the administration people go back to their previous ranks. The new structure would be 54 merit deputies. Merit promotions are permanent. Minimum of permanent merit rank assigned to 5 lieutenants, 6 sergeants. Rank pay paid out of combined rank pay line item. So we're wanting to have one focused amount that we go to, $165,000, and that takes care of that rank pay. Majors is $17,500 times 3, which is $52,500. The lieutenants is $10,500 at $50,000. Sergeants, $5,000 times 6 is $30,000. So it just helps me run a department, make sure that we have the right people that are supervising and they remain in those roles. But there are times that we could be rank heavy, but that's why we have that amount of $165,000 that we're not just having on a line item. Any questions so far? Kind of going quick with it.
Well, that whole merit thing is a little cattywampus as far as understanding it. So, for example, as sheriff, do you hold rank if you're not sheriff?
No, I have no rank. I'm sheriff. I'm not in that portion.
All right, so if you went back to being in the line,
Just going back, yeah.
you would go back to a what?
I don't have any rank.
All right, so you used an example like Andy.
Barnhart, he's a lieutenant. He would
Okay.
go back. So if we got a new sheriff, that sheriff can put him back out on the street, has to put him back out on the street as a lieutenant. That is his permanent rank.
And we don't have that now?
No.
So what would happen?
We do have that now. What we're trying to do is I want to eliminate any acting rank, because acting rank is, one, not healthy for the department. And we keep talking about healthiness of our employees. We want those people when they do, it's a process. It's a big process when these folks go and test. There's a lot of work to get to that point, and you're taking on several other people. So we want, if we can get rid of that acting rank. Sergeant is the best one that I can really describe, because you can be an acting sergeant and then something occurs and then you're not an acting sergeant, and you've tried to do your best to maintain and supervise a shift, that now you're going back, you're going to go from a acting sergeant to a deputy. So do you see where that can create some issues for that individual? No other agencies, this has been a problem that's been going on for a long time, and we need to straighten it out where that rank is permanent, except for chief deputy and the majors.
See, I always thought it was. This is
Yeah,
new to me.
a lot of agencies, Greenwood, they have no
Yeah.
acting rank.
Yeah.
So it just really hasn't made sense, because a person, they go out with that full knowledge to go out and do a good job, and you're acting, it's tough.
So why now?
I think it's time to clean it up. I think
Is
we're
it
just trying
because you're
fix some
going to be
stuff.
leaving and get it cleaned up before?
We just want it a certain way. When you see these individuals test and their heart and soul goes into it, this has been a couple-year process that we've discussed it with our merit board and what we want to do, and it betters the department. And I'm going to get into something right now, well, let's jump into it. We're always battling other agencies. and I was gonna go to it because you can see it, the salary comparisons. People do stay because it's a healthy environment. John Dittmer said that. And our people do stay. Now, I do have one good thing. In the jail, we had everybody we needed for one day. And that was Friday. Saturday, somebody resigned. So we try. We've got great people, but we're also running a lot of folks through because we have people leave to go to different places to take jobs on that pay better. And the younger generation that was said earlier up here today, $2,000 is a lot of money to a new couple, that's trying to survive. So we still play with that. Now, there's an agency in this county that it's not abnormal for them to have 9 people in an academy. If I had 9 openings and those folks were at the academy, that hurts us. So we're always dealing with that pay, and that's why we always want that $5,000 separation, just so we can kind of keep things going. You guys as a council has done a great job for us because there's many years in the past that we didn't get anything at all. So, but that's a battle that we're always fighting within the agency. But the salary request that we have here, we would change one position from a correctional officer to a corporal, $55,000 to $63,000. An OCM that takes care of the court and DOC to make sure that we're getting our money from DOC specialists, combined with a correctional officer, making that an assistant corporal from $54,000 to $60,500. 5% as per guidelines for all non-public safety employees. This is pretty comparable to the comparison of other agencies. $5,000 public safety employee raise results in a raise between 3 to 9% depending on the rank of that individual. Nearly all comparisons counties have a pay matrix for public safety positions. Since we have no matrix for longevity, the 10-year data for a merit deputy was used and the 5-year data for all other public safety positions. The comparison data is actually skewed low because of this. The data on the comparison sheet is shown in 2024 salaries. These agencies will likely keep pace with large raises. Still, playing catch up from years behind, low on scale to start getting low to no raises from 08 to 16. The recent raises have been great and have helped narrow the gap, but we're still trying to keep up. Indiana State Police, a first-class trooper, $110,000. Bargersville Police Department, patrolman, first class, $90,000. White River Township and Bargersville Fire Department, merit firefighters are higher paid than our deputies. We're just playing catch up, and we do more than what you know. And as soon as we get done with our budget process, we're always sitting down at the table. This is something we talk about. It comes up every Monday or every day that we meet and have staff meetings so that we can stay fully staffed. I don't want to see our merit deputies. I remember when guys stayed, 30 years. You don't have that. Some get 20 and they're gone. I don't like training people. I like keeping the same folks that know the job, they know the community, and know the people. So that's kind of some of the stuff that the Sheriff's Office is looking at.
Well, I'm a bit overwhelmed and I have no questions.
I'm overwhelmed too.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
This is something that Andy Barnhart lives for.
This is a whole nother project for all of us to dig into, dissect, and to look at. Now, I don't work in your field, so I can't speak of what, I can't stand up here and tell you what's right, what's wrong, what's not needed, what is needed. I just want you to protect me when I need it.
Well, as I told John Dittmer's at dinner the other night, I said, just need to go home and practice in front of the mirror and make a motion to approve the sheriff's budget.
I, for one.
Did he pay for his supper?
No, actually, he wanted me to pay for his.
I, for one, have no comments at this point, Sheriff. I'm going to require further work. I will tell you, I'm going to try my best to not make any additional exceptions for the Sheriff's Department this year going above that 5%. But I realize they're a majority of the county. I realize we took them to the top of the mountain last year, and I hear the same thing as you do, like you just said yourself, every year. I'm just going to have to do a lot more work myself.
And we're open for the questions and sit down with anybody. I've been there for 36, 37 years. I love the place. gone nowhere else. This is where I've had my career, and I've watched the good times and the bad times. We've been on top of the mountain lately, and I do thank you for that. But, you know, the men and women at the sheriff's office, I can say, they're happy. And I want to keep them happy, and I want to keep the right folks right there.
And I
see other
respect
agents-
you fighting for your people and asking for what you need and what you want. I respect that. But I also know you can respect our position as well. The pie is for everybody, not just this 700 and what, or,
We'll just make another pie.
yeah, make another pie. So that's all I've got.
John, did you have something?
I did.
Marion County, oh, go ahead.
No.
I'm sorry.
Which John are you talking to? John or me?
Anyone, just pick a John.
He doesn't take me anything.
Turnover, again, comes to mind. Merit turnover versus the others you're talking about. What do you see in, I mean, I know you're talking about compensation competition, right? So are you losing people on the road and so forth?
The road, not so much, okay? They stick around, they retire, but they're retiring early. But we have had individuals within the agency see what other agencies are making, and they've gone to test at other agencies. State Police is throwing a lot out there right now at $110,000. One of their highest paid detectives made $219,000 last year because of overtime. I'm not saying anything, he does great work, that detective does. But you're seeing those guys shot for that, and it is a battle to keep them right here. They are happy. They love the administration. I'm not saying that because I'm the sheriff. We communicate with them. We have a lot of programs like everybody else is set up here, and we're focusing on those employees.
And so where I go is I look at salary studies, and then I think it's sort of the nature of the beast. You always have competition. You just want to be as narrow as you can, but you also, as we're talking about, creating other reasons to stay. But that competition's always going to be there, right?
It's there, but it's stronger than ever because I think state police is 300 plus short on troopers. It's almost to 400 in Indianapolis. And I truly don't want to replace folks because they're holding that line right now. I mean, it is a battle. There is crime that comes from Marion County, enough that the prosecutor and myself put a billboard up, and we have that great working relationship, and it may also be a working environment at other places.
Okay, thanks.
I heard the Marion County prosecutor, our Marion County sheriff on TV the other night say he can't keep anybody because they're all going to Johnson County.
Well, if you look, we have people from, a lot of folks from Morgan County, Marion County, Bartholomew County, that live in Columbus that work for Johnson County Sheriff's Office. And I think I
think that says a lot about our
want to come here.
department.
We have a great team, court services, everybody, the communications amongst everybody in the court system, I think that helps.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
5-minute potty break. I just got a note. We need a couple requests and then we'll do the last one, which is the prosecutor's office.
So we got a potty break and then how many more?
One?
Just one.
Yep. One more, prosecutor's office. That's what everybody else has been given. Okay. We're waiting on Mr. Deere. He should be right back.
What page is it?
I couldn't tell you. I didn't look at it. I wanted to see the presentation and I figured him and the sheriff, we'd all have to dissect together.
So here's your president.
I'm concerned about his health. He's probably outside smoking.
So how have you been?
Good.
Yeah, his car. You go ahead.
I don't know. Okay. Hey, let's get started. Yeah, and somebody else can go out and look for him. Make sure he's okay.
His car's out. His car.
Yeah. Did you say you were gonna? Okay, thank you. Tiffany's gonna take care of it. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and start because I'm not sure where Ron is and someone's gonna go out and check for him, so.
You're Andy.
Is he okay?
Yeah, there's a thumbs up.
Okay, thumbs up, he's okay. You can go ahead and get started, Lance, if you'd like. He should be coming in.
Taking a cue from our Commissioner Ron West, I thought I'd start out with a poem that I think is appropriate. You might have heard it before. It's called A Beau Ben Adam. A Beau Ben Adam, his tribe in Greece, awoke one night from his dream of peace, and saw within the moonlight in his room, making him rich and like an angel writing in a book of gold. Exceeding peace that made Ben Adam whole. To the presence in the room, he said, the vision raised its head, and with a look made of all sweet accord, answered, the names of those who love the Lord. And is mine one? Asked it Beau. Nay, not so. Beau spoke more low, but cheerfully still, and said, I pray thee then, write me as one who loves his fellow man. The angel wrote and vanished. The next night he returned with a great waving light, and showed the names whom love of God had blessed, and lo, Ben Adam's name would all rest. Now that poem is going to be relevant. I'll come back to that. We say in court, Judge, give me a minute and I'll show you the relevant. Okay. Let's talk about our 2025 budget. Screen wasn't work good for me. Talk about first my previous history with our council. Some of you I have some history with, many of you don't because we have changes from time to time, but I did do this for 32 years and it always changes because we see new faces. All right, in my 13 years as judge, year after year I came to council and asked for almost nothing for 13 years. One time we came in and asked for across-the-board raises to comply with the Supreme Court standards. Another time we asked for a raise for an IT person that served a lot of the offices. Twice I came asking, but most of the time I didn't come asking for anything, nothing exceptional. By contrast, I routinely brought money back to the council. That was my practice. During my first 6 years as judge, I built up the public defender fees and court cost fees, so I was generating more than $100,000 a year for this body. I know with the size of our budget, that's not a lot, but it's something to be said that we're adding to instead of always taking from. So that's what we try to do. And back then, I put on a presentation for you. I was Superior Court attorney, and I said, "You ain't never had a friend like me." So that's what we did. Now let's talk about my 18 years as prosecutor. Near the end of my first 18 years, I was generating nearly half of my budget through, and this thing is kind of slow. Is that normal? Is that this? Or do you need to do it quicker? Okay. I'll try to make these things move fast. So that's how we did it. Most of these things have dwindled, unfortunately. Federal government tends to hand you money and then pull it back and play games with you, and bad checks, we don't write checks anymore. So a lot of that stuff has dwindled, but we still try. So I would say we're working on it. Now I want to talk for just a minute, it's like a civics lesson. I know you guys already know all this stuff, but it's a good review. What is the purpose of government? Really, why did we coalesce as a society and make government? Early man formed society because of violence. There's even evidence in the fossil record of humans having their heads crushed in by other humans. We have wonderful people in our societies, but we have that small few that we have to protect ourselves from. Even on the walls, they have paintings, drawings of that kind of stuff. As in primitive times and ancient times, there are still evil men among us. Now let's be honest, maybe some of them are women, but most of them are men. Okay? So we'll take the heat for that. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the murders that you've seen in this county when I was prosecutor. Just a quick reminder, Overstreet murdered a young woman, kidnapped her, got the death penalty. Shanna Barger murdered, he fathered a child for the specific purpose of murdering the baby to get back at his wife. Jail Spivey beat an old man to death. Bragged that he did a Mike Tyson on a man. Fernando Griffith, those were all my cases. This one of my deputy prosecutors prosecuted, he murdered 2 teachers, burned their house down around. John Vance murdered his own mother. He was helped by his buddy Danny Simpson. 2 of my deputy prosecutors did those 2 cases. My case again, Matt Stoops murdered a drug dealer, Parkhurst. Another murder that was my case. David Goodnight, one of my deputy prosecutors, was an attempted murder case. He got returned on appeal, but he beat it and came back and did it again. Toby Connersman beat a guy half to death, gave him brain damage. That was my case. Jeremy Bullock, same thing, except it was a murder. My case. Deborah Cole, another murderer. My case. Michael Close was the first one we did. This is just a handful of them, but it's what we do. Stephen Stoltz tried to kill a police officer, got 55 years. Timmy Greer did the Don's Guns murder. Spent the rest of his life in prison, died about 3 years ago. All of these vicious criminals are in prison or dead because prosecutors did their jobs. So why did we coalesce into societies and form governments? John Foster Dulles, who was Secretary of State under Eisenhower, said of all the tasks of government, emphasis, of all the tasks of government, the most basic is to protect its citizens against violence. So the government could protect its citizens against violence. I apologize, this thing's slow. I'll be going way faster. 4 clicks on that. So here's how it's done at the local level. Police arrest the violent, prosecutors convict the violent, and the prisons contain the violent. These 3 processes are the triad of protection of what? The most basic function of government. Those 3. Police catch them, prosecutors convict them, prisons contain them. And why? So they can't hurt anybody else. We want to stop and reboot. This is real stuff. Police catch them, prosecutors convict them, and the prisons cage them. Let's be honest, that's what those are. They're just cages for people. If any one of that 3, that triad breaks down, government fails in its most basic function, to protect its citizens against violence. Police arrest the suspect for murder. Prosecutor has 72 hours to file charges. The prosecutor doesn't do that, the killer walks. That is a fact. Nobody can change that. Not the governor, not the attorney general, not the chief justice of the Supreme Court. If those charges don't get filed, he walks. And let's carry that on if he doesn't get convicted. He walks after the trial. So the minute those charges are filed, all of these things start ticking, all these deadlines start happening. If anything's missed, he walks. And that's why the job is stressful. The triad of protection breaks down. We fail in our most basic function that even cavemen understood. So it's critical that we keep pace with the crime that comes at us. The hierarchy of local government is as follows. What's the basic function of government? Obviously, first and foremost, protecting citizens from crime and violence. Other essential functions of government, though not the most basic, are things like roads and schools. And then other things that are important, but not basic and not essential, are things like libraries, access buses, parks, and museums. And this is what our citizens want. They want to be protected from violence. You never hear a citizen complain about their tax money going to protect them from criminals. At least I haven't in 32 years. Try to imagine this going really fast. Crime fear's been up since 2020. See what's going on in California and some of those crazy states out there where they stop prosecuting criminals. Click, click, click. When government fails its most basic function, people flee. It's that simple. History tells us that. Try to imagine all these things popped up when I said it. You can see where people are fleeing from and where they're going to. My own son is a federal agent. When they left California, he said that we escaped from California. Because the local government had broken down. They were relying on the feds to do just about everything. That's exhausting for people who, that's usually not their main function, is doing local stuff. This is going on in Indiana as well. Where, you ask? More people left Marion County last year than anywhere else in the state, according to Indianapolis Star. They kind of brag about their murder rate going way up, and then it went down just a little bit. Hey, it went down. But people are still fleeing because they're seeing murders happen all over the place. We need to make sure Johnson County doesn't become Marion County. Or West California. So let's talk about the crisis. Does sound work on this? Yes. Okay. Make that go.
Law enforcement officials in Johnson County are frustrated with the amount of crime that they're seeing.
Yeah, and the numbers show nearly half of the offenders are coming from Marion County. Fox 59's Jenny Graceler spoke with officials about what they're calling a growing problem.
And Johnson County's prosecutor Lance Hamner agrees. He says to deter criminals from coming to Johnson County, he's not holding back when it comes to prosecuting them if they do.
Cross this line, you're going to do a lot more time.
because we are serious about putting people away for a long period of time. We're talking property crimes, we're talking about violent crimes, we're talking about drug dealing. You do that in this county, you can count your incarceration time in years, not weeks and months.
And Johnson County isn't alone. We reached out to other donut counties and found that they too are seeing crime from Marion County bleed into their jurisdiction.
I hope they tell their friends, don't do crimes in this county because you're going to pay.
In Johnson County, Jenny Drasler, Fox 59 News.
Might have seen that in a few of our press releases. I'm always saying, I hope these guys tell their friends.
Law enforcement officials in Johnson County are frustrated with the amount of crime.
Johnson County is coming off a violent and deadly 2022.
Okay, although the other donut counties are getting hit, we're getting hit worse. What? Why are we getting hit worse? Come back to that.
Johnson County is coming off a violent and deadly 2022. Last year, the county saw the most homicides in its history. WRTV's Adam Shum shows us what the county is doing to make sure this year isn't a repeat of last.
We had 10 homicides. Those were in the cities and the towns. In particular, 2022 was a rough year for Johnson County law enforcement.
10 murders is a number that Sheriff Burgess says is the most in the department's history.
Would see, one or two within the county. But the 10 really affected us. It taxed the officers, both physically and mentally.
And it's a number that Sheriff Burgess hopes to never see again.
You have to change your ways of patrolling. If it's saturated patrols, if you're having trouble in certain areas, is to go to that area with a number of law enforcement officers.
Burgess says that's part of what's being done to help curb the spike in violence.
People know that if they come to Johnson County that, we've got a great judicial system and we're working with the prosecutor's office and charges are going to be filed and there's going to be consequences.
Johnson County is coming off a violent and
We've seen all these things. I don't know if you guys do Twitter or X. Johnson County homicide surge. Somebody put this billboard up. Nobody knows who did it. Hey, Greenwood, how about we stop shooting each other? And nobody knows who did it, but it was during that. And it's somewhat unabated. Then, okay, this is from the Marion County FOP president, all right? Sheriff warns Indy crime continues to bleed over into Johnson County, and the Johnson County taxpayers are footing the bill for it. What's the relevance of that? We want to stop that. I don't know if you heard Hammer and Nigel, but he quoted me talking about getting tougher on crime. He said that Johnson County prosecutors tougher on Indianapolis criminals than the Indianapolis prosecutors. Oh, that's nice to hear. I hope the criminals are catching on to that. In Johnson County, we believe in punishing the guilty and keeping them away from our families. Marion County is totally losing the war against crime. And I'm just going to say, that's just a fact. That's why so many people are leaving there. And yes, those are my grandbabies. I just had to throw that in. In Johnson County, we believe failure is not an option. Oh, I was wearing sunglasses. We won't let our families be preyed upon, and we're letting the criminals know it. That's our message that we're trying to pass. We even put up a billboard. Sheriff and I put up this billboard to let these guys know, you cross this line, this is when it gets bad. Stay out of this county. We're sending that signal, but we need to keep sending it. We need to send it stronger. handsome those two guys are. Am I right, Sheriff? I agree. Sheriff agrees. So there you go.
Did they put hair on the sheriff up there?
We were gonna put a, you know, alter the picture, put sheriff looking, you know, but he's like, no. I wanna be me. So let's talk about our track record since we took office in 2023. Our felony jury conviction rate was approximately 53%. Sex crimes was about 60%. 2023, that surged to 88% for felony juries. Sex crimes, 100%. 2024, jury trial conviction rate for felonies is 91%. Sex crimes, 100%. So I think there's a message being sent out there, and these guys are finding out, we come out here, we want to plead not guilty, we want a trial, you're gonna go to prison. And the total since taking office, since 2023, is our felony jury trial conviction rate is 90%, major felony jury trial conviction rate 100%. Major felonies, 100%. And the sex crimes, again, 100%. I'll explain in a minute how we do that. Our deputy prosecutors now average 15 total years trial experience, 215 years total experience, total of 250 jury trials. That was not the way it was before. Our statewide reputation, 2 new deputy prosecutor recruits sought out this office, told me, you know, of course they're trying to get the job, you know, so you think, well, they're blowing this some smoke. They wanted to work here and apply only here because they wanted to work in the best prosecutor's office in the state. And this is now becoming the place to poach from. I hear from other prosecutors that we're trying to steal your people. Officer my people come to me and go, I got an offer, I'm not gonna take it, just wanna let you know. They're trying to take the people who win. That's how it works. So we like to call it the round table. You know, this wouldn't look so weird if I started doing this. Then you'd think it was a time warp. We're dealing with the crisis. Crime rates have exploded since 2020. Criminal case filings have gone up 48% since 2020. Just to put that in perspective, if you have this much, and this many people are doing that, and then all of a sudden you take this much and move it to this much, another 50%, and the same number of people, there's a bottleneck there. And that's going to be a problem. Violent crime has surged, murders have surged. As we said, 2022 set a record of 10 homicides, 500% more than the Johnson County average. I never saw anything like this when I was prosecutor the first time. We've never had as many pending cases as we do at this very moment, even though we've been clearing them out ever since we started. And we've never had as many pending murder cases as we do at this very moment. 300% more than any time when I was prosecutor during the first 6 terms. And this number will be going up. Why would I say that? Because we're looking at some more cases right now that are likely to get filed. We have several active investigations that are going to be charged. We have more police officers on the street. The cities are hiring more officers. The prosecutor's office was staffed with 16 prosecutors from 2015 to 2023. Since 2015, 58 new police officers have been added in the county. You probably don't know this, but a major police department in this county is anywhere between 48 and 70. So Franklin, Greenwood, Sheriff's Department, that's like adding an entire new police department. Big police department. That's a 26% increase in the number of police officers. And Bargersville's going to be adding 4 more, so instead of 58, I think 62. Who's going to prosecute their cases? Unlike on TV, they don't just prosecute themselves. The Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council last year published an attorney workload and staffing study. This is very interesting. They compared the caseloads of each prosecutor's office, county by county. The recommended caseload standards were made by the population. So Johnson County, somewhere around 166,000, 165,000. They came up with the number, same with all the other 92 counties in Indiana. The study shows that this office should have had 5 new deputy prosecutors since 2015, just to keep pace with the numbers of police officers. The study shows Johnson County still 4 prosecutors short. What's the basic task of government? Protecting the people against violence, and yet we're short in one of the 3 legs of the triad of protection. Johnson County would need 22 attorneys to meet the case. Actually, it's 22.1 or 22.2 or something. We currently have 17 attorneys. In other words, 76% of what we need to protect our citizens is what we have. We're outmatched by 6 of the 7 donut counties. Only Shelby County is numerically worse off. So let's talk about that. So there they are. Boone County, 102%. Hamilton County, 90%. They're still green. Hancock, 103. Hendricks, 84. They're kind of getting down there. Marion County and Morgan, they're kind of in the orangey. Johnson County, red. Shelby County, red. That's where we are. That's where we need to be. The Department of Justice says you need a paralegal for each prosecutor. That's the standard. We're not asking for that, but right now we only have half a paralegal for each prosecutor. Department of Justice says 1.1. These people do things that keep us from missing deadlines and losing cases on technicality. We have less than half the norm, or a little bit more than that. Paralegals are overwhelmed, and I've seen important things being missed. I'll be right up front and tell you that. They miss things from time to time because they have too much to do. In addition to homicide spike and the general crime spike, there's a general attorney shortage in the state. Oh my gosh, Lance, how much worse could it get? Hang on, I'll show you. We can't even find attorneys. The attorney shortage in Indiana is hitting prosecutors the hardest.
We're already in crisis mode in our office. An attorney shortage across the state.
We're stretched. It's not sustainable.
A problem impacting your wallet and well-being.
Frankly, this is a public safety issue.
WRTV Investigates spent 5 months digging into why this is happening.
We keep shooting ourselves in the foot.
And what's being done to address it.
What are state lawmakers doing about this problem? We need attorneys for so many things. Wills, estates, divorces, if you've been injured or you're accused of a crime. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Nicole Griffin.
And I'm Mark Mullins. The national average is 4 lawyers for every 1,000 residents.
In Indiana, it's much lower, averaging 2.3 lawyers per 1,000 residents and dropping, putting Indiana in the bottom 10 states for attorneys. WRTV Investigates Kara Kenny spent the past 5 months talking to people across the state.
And what she found is creating problems in courtrooms across the state.
This map shows active attorneys, including judges by county. While Marion County has 6,000 lawyers, some counties only have a handful.
Meanwhile, the number of attorneys coming out of Indiana law schools has been on the decline. Before 2017, Indiana had 5 law schools: McKinney, Maurer, Notre Dame, Valparaiso, and Indiana Tech. Indiana Tech closed in 2017, Valpo closed in 2020. Of the 3 law schools left, the state says IU McKinney is the only law school producing Indiana lawyers at a high rate. Estabrook plans to be one of them.
Definitely interested in property, wills and estates and trusts.
But he's not interested in using his law degree to work in Indiana's criminal justice system, which is the hardest hit by the state's attorney shortage.
Everything is kind of in triage mode all of the time.
Brent Eaton is the prosecutor in Hancock County, a fast-growing county with nearly 80,000 people. These 7 are the only prosecutors in the county. They're budgeted for 8, but the Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council says they should have 12 attorneys to be adequately staffed.
It affects public safety directly.
Are there crimes in your community that are not being prosecuted because you just don't have enough staff?
Yes, but we don't have enough manpower to really cooperatively work with law enforcement to see these investigations through from the beginning, so we can necessarily get all the evidence we may need to be able to prosecute every single thing we would like to.
Eden says he'd love to devote an attorney to a drug task force, but he doesn't have the manpower. The shortage is burning out the staff he does have, like Chief Deputy Prosecutor Amy Herring, who estimates she's worked 500 hours of unpaid overtime so far this year.
We can't keep up at this pace. We're already in crisis mode in our office. We don't have the staff to meet the needs right now. We're just treading water. And so that's only going to get worse.
On the day we tagged along with her, Herring was juggling hearings, trainings, and meetings.
So it's not just the in-court time and the caseload that you see by the numbers, it's all the preparation time and the outside extraneous things.
She spent more than 6 hours preparing for a child molester's sentencing, including this argument for a stiff sentence.
What we can do is make sure that for the next 20 years, the defendant has no access to these children or any others in our community or any community.
The prosecutor shortage means cases can take longer to resolve, leaving victims in limbo.
It affects our ability to get justice.
Jenny Wendt is a rape survivor from Hancock County. She inspired Jenny's Law, which in 2015 expanded the statute of limitations for rape. She's concerned about the impact of the attorney shortage on victims.
People are going to lose faith and they aren't going to feel safe. They're going to quit coming forward. They'll think that nobody has time for them. And that just is going to lead to a very dangerous situation for our community.
Several groups have been sounding the alarm to lawmakers,
Indiana has a lawyer shortage and it's growing.
including the Indiana Supreme Court and the Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council, or IPAC.
It is not only a public safety issue, but a potential grinding to the halt of the entire criminal justice system.
Dozens of counties have job openings posted for prosecutors, openings they struggle to fill.
We cannot stop the bleed if we can't increase our salaries.
Only 11% of Indiana counties have adequate staffing to meet its workload. IPAC says our state needs 440 prosecutors to be adequately staffed, which would cost an estimated $53 million in state funding to rectify. During the most recent legislative session, bills that would have addressed the attorney shortage failed to advance. Lawmakers took no action, leaving counties to compete with each other for attorneys who want to work in the criminal justice system.
It's like an arms race. No, it really is.
Eaton wrote this letter to the county council begging to increase pay for deputy prosecutors and 3 more positions.
Ultimately, the council is going to have to make a decision. Either they want to continue to have public safety that's among the best in the country, or, they continue to do things the way they're doing.
Back in Bicknell, Mayor Estabrook wants people to know you can make a great living in a small town.
The idea that you have to go to a big city to get a lot of work as an attorney is just not true. I think there's just a lot of unrealized demand for those services in rural areas.
The attorney shortage comes as communities are beefing up police departments, boosting pay for cops, and cracking down on crime. But prosecutors say you have to have the staff to prosecute the crimes. Kara Kenny, WRTV.
And we did reach out to the Hancock
County did get their increase. They now have 103% of what IPAC recommends they have. So here we are. I want to talk for just a minute about murder. Just for a minute about murder. Because, of course, that's generally considered the most serious thing that we do. That and sex crime. Let's talk about the one. Murder, the most heinous crime we deal with as prosecutors and police officers. In a murder case, obviously, failure is not an option. You lose it, the killer can kill again. It's a life and death struggle. Here's how you become a homicide prosecutor. We've already seen this attorney shortage, which is counterintuitive because we've always heard there's too many lawyers. Used to be not enough engineers. Now it's reversed. Now we don't have enough lawyers. So you postpone your job, your career, anything to advance yourself for 7 years. 7 years. 4 years of college. You sit for the LSAT. If you make the top quartile, you might get in. Then you get 3 more years in law school. You get all done with that, yay, you're ready to be a homicide prosecutor with $130,000 in school debt. You get the Doctor of Jurisprudence degree. Unlike some people in national news, we don't insist on being called doctor, but we won't talk about that. After you get the Juris Doctorate, are you ready to be a homicide prosecutor? Oh, no, no, no. You get 3 more months of intense study for the bar exam, and you think, oh, come on, Lance, don't cry about 3 months of more study. You've already done 7 years. But here's the bad news. The bad news is only 55% pass. So IU McKinney sends out 100 graduates, and we go, we can pick from that 100. Boom, now we're down to 55. And of that 55%, of those who pass, only 52% become trial lawyers. There's a world of difference. In England, they call them barristers and solicitors. Solicitors are the paper guys, barristers are the courtroom guys, okay? Only 29% who graduate from law school become barristers. Someday, we'll see this. Good thing I have this memorized, huh? Source, math. So in a state that only has 1 law school feeding lawyers, there we are. Out of every 100, we can pick out of 29. Only 29 are qualified to even train for this. Because you don't just go, I'm a trial lawyer. I graduated from law school, I am now a trial lawyer. That's not what happens. Here's what happens. After law school and after becoming a trial lawyer, you start out trying cases like traffic cases and drunk driving and disorderly conduct. You're not qualified to be a homicide prosecutor. Unlike, and I love this movie, I'm not putting it down, anybody's a big fan of A Few Good Men, I love it too. But nobody comes out of law school and does his first trial that's a homicide. Not once, not ever. It's never happened. But other than that, it's pretty good. Tom Cruise jumping out of airplanes in the Olympics, he's so cool. Okay, so becoming a homicide prosecutor, you need a minimum 3 more years experience trying jury trials. Minimum. And 20 jury trials under your belt before we're going to hand you a file and say, go get justice for this dead victim and his family. It's also the most stressful job in America, bar none. You may think being a taxi driver is more stressful. But according to the Washington Post, going by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, that's the most stressful. And why? Long hours, high stakes. Because when you get up and give a speech, everybody's afraid to give public talks. But imagine you're going to get up in front of 12 people and they're going to decide if they like you better or they like the other person better. And by the way, if you lose, that killer goes free. That's stress. No one complains about it on our side. Protecting our fellow men is what we chose as a profession. One deputy prosecutor told me this. When I got my first job, just recently, just a couple of days ago, she goes, when I got my first job as a prosecutor, after 4 years of college, got my first job, and then 3 more years of college, I became a lawyer, got my first job as a prosecutor, I was making the exact same thing I was making before I went to law school. And lawyers, like doctors, their value goes up vastly with specialized training. Come out of medical school, can you do brain surgery? Not unless you want to get sued and arrested. Becoming a trial lawyer is like doing a surgical residency. Becoming a homicide trial lawyer is like going into brain surgery. It's pretty much the hardest. It's the pinnacle. Like a Bob and Adam, they do it because they love their fellow men. They don't talk about it, they show it. And that's why they chose this type of trial work over civil litigation, where you can make a lot more money. I know, because when I came out of law school, I was working with the top law firm in the state. And 8 years ago, if I'd stayed with that law firm, I would have retired as a multi-millionaire. I'm not bragging about that, I'm just saying it pays me. But make no mistake, homicide trial specialists have families to feed, and like brain surgeons, they know how much they're worth, especially during this lawyer shortage. They know how much they should be compensated. And like doctors, if they're not recognized for their value, they will leave to get what they're worth someplace else. It's one of our processes. That's one of the law schools that sends a lot of people out of state. So think Have Gun Will Travel, think Paladin. For those of you old enough to remember that. I come from the 1900s. Some of us may recognize that show. It's a really good show. Is it a good show?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Looks a little bit like the sheriff.
Case in point, I'm going to use my own son Alex, because you know what? I don't have to ask his permission. He knows what I tell him. He graduated from law school with honors in 2014. I got to swear him in when I was a judge. I swore in all the lawyers that year in the entire state of Indiana. He got a specialty in criminal trial work. He wanted to do what Dad did. Johnson County Deputy Prosecutor. He served here from 2014 to 2018 for 4 years. During that 4 years, he tried more cases than any other prosecutor in the office. Each of those 4 years, he was the trial machine. He won every case he tried to a jury, including murder. Well, every other case too, but every case he tried, he won. His salary when he left, and this was in 2018, was $73,500. Then in 2018, U.S. Attorney's Office gave him a call. Hey boy, we can use your skills, they said. We'll offer you $100 grand plus. Alex has my grandkids to feed, and he left. He now lives on a beach in Georgia. Makes that at the U.S. Attorney's Office, $144,000. That's what happens to the deputies. Awful. $30,000 more than my highest paid deputy prosecutor. And there's some of these little things that we have. And that's the answer. Yep. Doesn't look a thing like his dad, so that's why he's handsome. All right, 2018, Johnson County lost best trial lawyer in the prosecutor's office. 2021, we lost another experienced homicide prosecutor. Ironically, she went to IPAC. 2023, we lost yet another experienced trial lawyer. And then, since 2023, we lost 3 seasoned trial lawyers. It's a seller's market for trial lawyers, it just is. This is the world we're living in right now. And then this just in 2024, on June 14th, one of my deputy prosecutors came to my office to announce he would be leaving July 1st. He received an immediate $10,000 pay increase with the potential to earn another $15,000 in bonuses, $25,000 pay increase. That's a loss of 4 deputy prosecutors in a year and a half due to the arms race that you heard the Hancock County prosecutor crying about. And quite frankly, it's something to cry about. It's like an arms race. Okay, IPAC pays most of their non-trial solicitor type lawyers, nor do we pay our trial lawyers. Isn't that pathetic? And we lost one today. Marion County is starting to raise their salaries, so we can't poach their people anymore. I used to still in Marion County. I had a lady who now works for me, but she was a judge in Marion County. I used to call her up, is this guy any good? Yeah. What about that person? Nope, you don't want to hire her. What about this guy? Oh, he's terrible too. What about that one? Oh, she's really sharp. I got all the inside information. We poached Marion County deputy prosecutors because they were good at what they did. They were the gunfighters, paladins. The Attorney General did the same thing, raised all their salaries. We can't poach them anymore either. I used to poach them. We posted 3 ads for prosecutors over the last year and a half, to pay in the area of $80,000 to $100,000, and got 3 inquiries, and none of the 3 were trial lawyers. It's kind of like, you put out, we need a sheriff here, and the only person who applies is Mark. Not your Mark. When I was elected prosecutor, I committed to run this place like a law firm. That means to attract, promote, and keep the best talent in the profession so that we can protect the public from violence. And I can't afford to keep losing talent. I can't afford to not be able to attract talent. Here's another little secret on attracting talent. They have this book that the prosecutor's office, or IPAC, publishes. Notice they show the population up there. So you look at Hendricks County, 179,000, and how many deputy prosecutors they have? 20. So they have one prosecutor for about every 9,000 people. For Ward County, I'm trying to find prosecutors' offices that are about our size. 112,000, they have 16, about 1 prosecutor for every 7,000. Elkhart County, 200,000, they've got, what does it say, 29? So they have a prosecutor for every 7,000. Now here's what a person who's a gunfighter, a paladin, I'm looking for a job as a deputy prosecutor. I think my talents will take me further if I go someplace else. They look at this and they go, holy crap, these people can't keep up. I'm not going to go there. We have 1 for 10,269. That makes it hard for me to attract candidates. The National District Attorneys Association, 93% of prosecutors are happy with what they do, but 57% consider leaving the profession, citing better pay and overwhelming caseloads as the primary reasons. And then you look at the jobs that they have open. Here, Wayne County is offering a brand new deputy prosecutor. This will never come up. Entry level, 100,000. Last time we put up something for an entry level, it was in the 80s. So, by the way, even Indiana State Police pay. There are guys who go to a 6-month academy, but they get experience more than we pay experienced prosecutors. 112,000. We put up an ad for one for 100,000 plus, 5 weeks before we got one good resume. It's hard to fill these crucial positions. We can't afford to keep losing prosecutors. We can't afford to not be able to attract the top. When I was at my newest acquisition. And why did you come here? What was attractive to you about our office and why you applied to us?
2 things. I researched the area. Johnson County, the schools, by and large, were impressive for 3 of my kids that I have that I'd be putting in middle and elementary. And honestly, the article on you. You took over, you wanted to win, you wanted to clean things up, you wanted to try cases, you wanted to do what, having worked in 2 other county prosecutor's offices is not common. And so those 2 things, the area along with you were the driving force.
Thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, that's all right.
I would prepare a witness a little bit more, but I just wanted to put, because she just told me this the other day, she's already got the job, I'll tell you why. But that's what she told me. It's a great place to live, and we have a good prosecutor's office. She wants to be part of the team. Join the round table. Of all the tasks of government, the most basic is to protect its citizens against violence. Murder cases, here's how murder cases tried. So you think, okay, so you get this person, you get them, years of experience, they do their 20 jury trials, you got a star here, you hand them a file, and off they go. They just go try that case. No, it takes 2 to 3 prosecutors to try a murder case if you want to win. That's 2 or 3 highly experienced, highly skilled trial prosecutors, and the drug court is high intensity. It's their full-time job for about 3 months. Overstreet, we prepped that case for a year before we tried that case. So that trial prosecutor's regular caseload, I'm working on this case doing nothing for the next 3 months. Here you go, somebody else has to take that over. This person's got this many cases, now they have that many cases. The lawyer who gets the reassignment has to add it to an already full caseload, and what they're doing isn't child's play. I don't know if you ever read this book, James Thurber, My World, Welcome to It, written in the 1940s. But I'm going to welcome you to my world. Lance Hamner. Every day, whether I'm at work or home, playing with grandkids, watching a movie, whatever I'm doing, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I'm dreading this call from the sheriff and his people, from the police office, from the police chiefs and their people. I'm dreading this call. Hi, Lance, sorry to tell you this, we just got another homicide. In 1991, I realized the enormity of my responsibility when I first became prosecutor. Every father in Johnson County expects me to protect his family. Every mom expects me to protect her kids. Every citizen expects me to keep them safe. That's really what they expect. They always see something in the news like this shooting happened, or this burglary happened, or somebody burned a house down, and then the citizens, the normal citizens who aren't in the middle of our world, go, what are they going to do about it? We're the they. What are we going to do about it? So I have 2 constant nagging worries in my life, my age. Will there be enough evidence to prove our cases? Well, that's just the facts. It's just the way it plays out. Will we have the manpower to staff and try the case? The former, it is what it is. It's the nature of the job. The latter, that's the responsibility of our council, whether we have what we need to be able to do it. I can deal with the murders if I have the resources. We've proven we can win. In the late 1990s, we had another run of murder cases, as you recall. Both of them got national attention. Talk about Overstreet, that's been on 5 TV shows. Dirtbag got the death penalty. Ronnie Shanabar, the baby murderer. Another one that got a lot of national attention. I even went on the Montel Williams show to push for tougher laws against guys that move in with his girlfriend and then beat the baby to death because it cries too much. Those cases took months to prep and months to try. They overwhelmed the office. I went to the council, they gave me 2 new prosecutors. We realized, Lance, that there's nothing more important than protecting the public from these killers. Here's a couple more people. And those people took over while the 3 of us worked those murder cases, because failure was not an option. It wasn't then, it's not now. Talking about the other donut counties, let's take a look. Here are the facts from the other donut counties. Shelby County Prosecutor Brad Landwater. Remember, he only has 66% of what IPAC says he's supposed to have by population. But let's look at some demographics. You know how many murder cases they're working? 0. Brent, he got his people. He's got 103%. How many murder cases is he working right now? One. They got 103%, they're working one murder case. Boone County prosecutor, man, they got hit. They got 3 pending murder cases. He's got 102% of what he needs. Hamilton County, twice our population, they only have 1 pending murder case. Why is that? Because we're on the south side. We keep getting that stuff bleeding down out of 3 highways, I-65, 31, and 135. It leads right into Johnson County, and all of these bad guys down here, I'm not saying everybody on the south side is bad, I'm just saying if they're bad, that's probably where they are. And when they come down and cross that line, we catch it over and over again. He's got 90% of what he needs, at least when they did that study. In comparison with Johnson County prosecutor, 7 pending murder cases. With 76% of what IPAC says we need to adequately staff those.
Mr. Hamner, excuse me, are we getting close to being to the end, sir?
Yeah, it'd go a lot faster if I had some.
I can't help you with that.
Yeah, I would say 10 minutes.
Okay.
We filed another murder case. We had to waive a juvenile. It's the first juvenile waiver to adult court in a decade, and it's the first juvenile waiver to adult court on a murder case since I was prosecutor the first time. So this is kind of stuff that I'm catching, and like I said, we've got actually a couple of reviews. The other donut counties don't have the crime we have. I can't protect us with 76% of what we need. Johnson County has 140% more murder cases than those other counties combined. And as I told you, it's the bad demographics. And that explains the demographics. I'm moving through this stuff so you don't have to read it. What we need to protect our citizens. We need 100% of what IPAC recommended. 4 deputy prosecutors, 4 paralegals. We're only asking for 75% of that this year, 3 deputy prosecutors, 3 paralegals. We'll ask for parity with the other donut counties next year. We'll see what they get. Actually, we've already seen what they got. We need our diversion money freed up so that we can actually use it for its statutory function, what the prosecutor needs. We need it for bonuses and to pay supplements to those people that are working these extra hours. Talk about the arms race, counties competing. Diversion statute specifically talks about employment of deputy prosecutors and staff. And any other purpose that benefits the office of prosecuting attorney. As a person who's working both private law and public law, everybody gets bonuses and everybody gets supplements, and that's how you attract and keep them. And that's what I need that diversion money for. Obviously, because 500 hours of unpaid overtime would be, at straight time, would be $38,000. But they're exempt, so they don't get paid that. But here's the thing, if they keep having to do it, they'll quit. As the old saying goes, when you send your knights out to protect you, you arm them with swords and shields, not trash can lids and butter knives. This is really more dramatic when I could pull these up. It's a lot faster. I want to point this out. I wrote the book on criminal procedure for the state of Indiana. Judges and prosecutors and defense attorneys across the state and police, law enforcement use this book. I I didn't want anything to look amiss, so I took $4,000 worth of my books and donated them to my prosecutor's office, because they need those books. So I asked this council, support me then with your first voice and pen. I think we're almost done. After this, we can get our staffing to the recommended levels, if we get our pay to be competitive, so the prosecutor's not always looking over their shoulder to see who's paying more. I'll once again go back to staying out of your hair. But for right now, I need to lie on behalf of our people. I'm scared. This is a lot more dramatic if I could do this faster. IPAC is working on getting the state to help pay for us, pay for some of those positions, but we won't know till 2026 again. Wealth tax of government, what is it? Protected citizens against violence. Bo Ben Adam loves his fellow man. But
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
You're fine, thank you.
Compelling.
All right, I know this is a workshop, so I think we're just supposed to come in and talk to you and then leave, am I right?
Correct.
Okay. I don't sing, I don't dance. If I did, you wouldn't want to see it or hear it, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Well, we,
Do you have questions?
Yeah.
I believe they may have some questions for you.
if I'm reading this correctly, the new request for the new prosecutors, the salary is greater than existing prosecutors?
Yes.
Oh, can you, I mean, you explain why you
That's
need,
how we attract top talent, because we can't say, we might move some of our top people into that, we might not, depending, we'll look at what we see. But like a law office, here's what a senior partner in a law office does. Who's our best talent? What are they producing? What are they bringing in? And what should their compensation be? And then they allocate according to that, and that's what I will be doing. That's what I have.
I guess my question is that if Deputy Prosecutor A is at 107,000 and you're bringing new one in at 124, wouldn't you be moving the existing up to the 124 and bringing the new one in at the lower?
I don't know, I can't comment on that. This is the kind of stuff that I do. I sit in my office and I look at what the salary should be paid, what these people need, and then what they earn.
Okay, and then the other question that I had was, you explained bonuses in there. Well, you didn't explain, you commented about bonuses. But when bonuses come up, there's always a question about how are bonuses decided and distributed? Well, I mean, but, is it a equal thing, or is it one person could get the whole bonus, or?
It's the prosecutor decides what that person's value is and what they did and how much they need to be bonused. So if somebody says, look, I did 6 trials this year, for crying out loud, I haven't been able to breathe and see my family, we'd like to take a vacation. Here's a bonus. Well, can I get overtime for that? No, you're exempt, you don't get overtime. You're not like everybody else. Everybody else gets time and a half. You get nothing. Because you went to 7 years of college, you get nothing. But what I can do is bonus you. That's what law firms do. One of my sons just left one of the biggest law firms in Chicago. His bonus was $50,000. That's what he got for being a top producer. That's how you keep the top talent. However, we're not asking to do that kind of stuff. We're just trying to give them some breadcrumbs so they don't leave. So I will look at it and decide how much does this person need for all of these extra hours they've been putting in, and then I'll bonus them.
All right, so they're all exempt.
Mm-hmm. And that's probably the way it should be, because imagine trying to keep track of. That's why in the professional setting, like doctors and lawyers and things, they make them exempt, but their compensation the whole package has to make it attractive for them to come and stay.
You good for that?
Yeah.
I had asked someone from your office to look at the general supplement line items and attach them to I don't want to say a person because we fund the position, but in other words, because they're all titled general supplements. Do you pick and choose from those, or do you attach one to
With the new budget,
Yeah.
what I would be doing is, for example, I'll take somebody, here's, like I said, our newest acquisition. She came in to do sex crimes. But if I had a deputy prosecutor who was in a position making, I'm just gonna throw out a number, a letter, X, she's making X. And I go, I'm gonna put you in sex crimes, and she's like, oh my gosh, that's so stressful, that's harder, that's more work, and I have to learn a whole bunch of new law for all of that stuff. I'm gonna give you a supplement, and now you'll be making as much as this other sex crimes prosecutor.
But my question is, when you say I'm gonna give you that supplement, is there a certain of your general supplements that you use for this position, or you just pick and choose whichever one has the most money left in it?
That,
You pick and choose, so there's no, for transparency purposes, I was hoping where you guys provided me the list this year that says, okay, this supplement is tagged to this public defender, or,
can't do that, because I don't know what's gonna happen. On a day-to-day basis, let me just, if I can speak plainly.
oh, absolutely.
I need to have these resources so I can run this like a law, so that when I do, I take somebody and I go, here's my resources. This discretionary money, this deferral money is called discretionary, so that the prosecutor can use it for that statutory purpose, what he deems. If I have to come in each time and go, this discretionary money, Mother, may I? No, you may not. Yes, you may. That's all I'll be doing. I won't be trying to cases, I won't be able to function if I have to play with each one of these numbers. That's why I said here, I need these for supplements, I need these for bonuses, and then I will allocate them as the senior partner of this law firm.
Would it make more sense just to have one supplement line item as opposed to, it doesn't seem like it's, with the fact that there's so many, it seems like they are tied to different positions, but if they're not.
No, I'm fine with it. If you want to change it and make it a big old thing, use it.
So, playing devil's advocate here. You're doing the same job and I'm doing the same job, regardless of how intense or stressful or high powered it is. But you kind of like me a little better than him. Is that gonna, if you are the sole, you're the judge, the jury, and the executioner on that, right?
That's what the voter said.
Okay, so that's governed by statute? That you have, okay. I just wasn't clear on that.
It's governed by statute. Can you explain how it's governed by statute?
Prosecutor's discretion.
Gives him the authority, so you could technically give it all to one person if you wanted to. That's what I'm saying, if you wanted to, you could. Yeah, okay.
Never have in 18 years.
Oh, no.
And
I think I came on board the same time you did, so.
Guess what else I can't do? I can't pay it to you.
Yeah.
My grandkids said, no, statute, they were very careful about saying, you can't pay it to yourself, you can't use that child support money for yourself, you can't do this. I guess someplace, sometime, somebody did that and got in trouble. But my thing is, how much do I need to keep this person working as a top producer, a winner, win our cases when they bring them in? Are we confident we're gonna be able to have the staffing and be able to get this case through a jury and get a conviction? I know who those people are, and I'll take this person, and I think this person make a good trial team with that person, and that's, generally, the sex crimes people are trying more cases than anybody else. You know why? Because perverts don't like to admit they're perverts. A guy punches somebody out, breaks his nose, and knocks him out, and is looking at 5 years in prison because he puts him in the hospital. Yeah, I punched him. Yeah, he made me mad enough. I was breaking into somebody's house. Yeah, I got a drug problem or something like that. As opposed to, you're a pervert, you get sexually attracted to little kids. Not me. Even though we got him on tape, not me. They will never admit it. They want to go to trial. That's why we try this. What's our conviction rate? 100% so far. Knock on. Marvel.
As we had told all the other departments prior to you, as a whole, we will reach out to you to any additional questions, or if we want any additional information, or if there's something else that you feel that you need to provide. I think you're their liaison, correct? Mr. Mallers is your liaison, but all of us are here. So we're obviously going to review your budget, take into consideration everything that you've given us, and it is our job to fund your department based on the information that we have, and for you to continue to do in your department the job that you do now. So we do appreciate you and all your staff, and like I said a while ago, I think I came on board originally when you did, so I have worked with a lot of those people that you were mentioning, so, and I've paid a lot of those bonuses, so I know where you're coming from. So I think you clearing some things up for especially the taxpayers and some of the other departments, because unfortunately, in the line of work in the different departments, things are not always equal. And that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, so.
I had one additional question about paralegals. You're asking for how many paralegals, Lance?
4, but this time 3.
And correct me if I'm wrong, don't the paralegals take some of the research burden off of the prosecuting attorneys?
The law firm, they would. Our people just keeping their head above water, just getting the things filed that need to be filed again. Prosecutor does all of this stuff, gives paralegal's taking that over, taking it to court. So we really don't have time. We've been using interns to do research. The paralegals, like if you go to Barnes and Thornburg, where I was a lawyer, and you have an army of paralegals that do all kinds of research. We don't have that kind of luxury. So our paralegals are more accurately called legal assistants. What they do is they do what the prosecutors tell them.
Okay, and you originally talked about asking for more paralegals, more than the 3. You said you weren't.
Ultimately, to get us up to IPAC staffing, 4 prosecutors, 4 paralegals to support. We're only asking this time for 3 and 3, just because I just didn't want to hit you with a whole load right up front. But ultimately, I'm going to come back and ask for more than 1 next time.
Okay.
And then after that,
Do you have this PowerPoint in paper form? Can
did
you?
you want another paralegal? I can do another.
No, I would like to have it in paper form so I could study it if you have the availability to do that. The statistics and everything that's on there.
Let me see what I can do.
Okay, if you can, that would be great. I'm sure all of us maybe would like to have that information if you can get it done.
Would it go faster on our iPads?
Email it? Yeah, just email it.
Yeah,
Just email it to
You can
us.
always just,
It's got too much, it has too many,
I'm from the old school. I kind of like the paper stuff. So if you can, great.
I think it's 190.
Well, you could probably leave out some pictures and some things, just a few things.
$190.
I'm talking basically the statistics would be great.
Return on investment, Lance.
Yeah. It was a
You
wonderful.
want me to make you another one and come in another time for another?
I'm
No.
good. I'm good. I got it. I got it.
All right,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I do want to state again before we close, anything that's happened today, if you have any questions, not just with this presentation, but with all of them, questions, comments, concerns, remarks, opinions, suggestions, advice, constructive criticism, whatever you have, please, we're asking you for it. Don't hold back. Be nice, but don't hold back. We are asking for it. All of our emails are on the Johnson County website. Everybody has my phone number, and I can get you everybody else's. So I really would like to hear your feedback, and we promise that we will work as hard as we possibly can to be as fair, transparent, and equitable as we can. So you tell me to be quiet. Oh, you couldn't stand it. Okay, Ron, you got 5 minutes and then we're
I'll be
gone.
respectful of your time.
Okay.
2 things. One, I just wanted to mention that, and Councilman Myers hit it on the head, the intangible that you were referencing, juvenile center, is the care those kids get, the education they get, and the rehabilitation. And that's the reason other counties want to send their kids here. It's not the monetary thing as much as those 3 things. The second thing is, it was suggested to me that during the budget hearings that I don't sit up here and that I don't make any comments. And I would just like to hear from the council what their reasoning is for that.
Well, the way I look at it, technically, this isn't the hearing. This is just a workshop.
No, he was asking during budget hearings. He was asked not to participate as the, quote, 11th, 8th council person.
Yeah, well,
Anybody?
You wanted to hear, what did you want to hear? You want to
I
hear
wanted to
why?
hear, I wanted to hear the council's reasoning for not wanting me to sit up here during budget hearings and to reserve any comments till the end of the budget process.
Maybe, does Adam want his seat, maybe? I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any issues, but
Well, if there's reluctance to tell me, let me tell you why I sit up here. There's
You
two or
know
three-
my reasoning. I talked to you about it personally.
There's 2 or 3 reasons I sit up here. One, hearing, I don't hear real good. And a lot of times you council people, Ron's soft-spoken and he leans back, he's down like this. And so I have trouble hearing and I don't want to be where I'm constantly saying, I didn't hear, can you repeat that? So hearing is critical. The second thing is that you guys appropriate the money for every line item. But as commissioners, we approve those individual expenditures. And the 3 commissioners, we work well together and we share different responsibilities. And I kind of took up the mantle of looking at claims. If you come to a commissioners meeting, I'm the one that's always talking about the claims and perusing them and making points. So for me, it's important to hear what your reasoning is and what the petitioner's reasoning is for the various line items. So those are the 2 main reasons I sit up here. I don't sit up here to intimidate. I don't sit, in fact, I think sometimes if I have a comment, or most generally you ask me, I think I'm trying to be helpful. That was my only intention.
Well, last year, Ron, I will tell you, I've been up front with you, so I said I've been up front with you from square one. There was some concerns last year with questions being asked from you to people who were at the podium. And whether anyone wants to say anything up here or not, there were concerns brought to me as president that they really wanted your remarks to be held for the public. I don't have a problem. I don't think anybody has a problem for physical reason, you sitting closer to us.
Yeah.
I, for one, value your input like I'm sure all the others do here. It's just we don't want anyone to feel intimidated or you to sway anything that anybody's saying, was what I got from everybody from them talking to me. So I don't know if that answers your
Yeah, and I
question
don't
or if
have a
anybody
problem
else
with
wants
that.
to speak.
Please.
Go ahead, John.
So the way I look at county government, you guys, the 3 commissioners, you have certain departments underneath you. You have departments up there presenting at that time. And I'm thinking that maybe the dialogue that you had in between your department head and you, I don't have a problem with that. And I don't know of any specific instance where he would have been talking with an elected official about their budget, was there? I don't think so.
No.
I'm not going to point those people out.
No.
I'm not going to point those people out.
Okay, all right.
No, I just go back to approving the claims. That's critical for our part to know why that money was in that line item and how it should be expended. That's the important thing.
And I'll speak to that I respect your work that you've done as a commissioner, and I respect you as a person, and I understand the need for you to perhaps be up there where you can hear better. I think the question that came up for me for the last 3 years is when you ask questions outside of departments that commissioners manage, that is our purview rather than the commissioner's purview, as I saw it. Not that you were doing anything wrong, but, you know, you're asking another elected official a question that is our responsibility to ask, rather than you as a commissioner asking that, because it'd be like Teresa asking Michelle, or, you know, the monitor asking somebody a question. We don't have that happen. And so therefore, I was suggesting that we limit that participation.
And I don't have a problem with that. That's
Yeah.
quite all right. In fact, I've emailed Pam in the past where I have various concerns and let her then bring
And
it
I
to you
will
and
still
address
take
it.
your notes and your questions and your concerns because they are always valid,
Yeah,
but they just
okay.
may need to be addressed from
Well,
here.
anyway, if there's no objection, come first reading, I would like to sit up here.
All right,
I'll
Tiffany,
reserve my
there you go.
comments.
Yeah, Tiffany, goodbye.
Other arrangements, that's fine.
Thank you very
We
much.
can make it work, Ron. Thanks for all you do. Okay, well, With that being said, I think we're gonna adjourn. I don't have, no, we're not taking any.
Let's stay until 6 o'clock.
No, I'm gonna go get something to eat. I didn't get any.
Well, there's chili in the other room.
So, thank you everyone for attending.
Amy has something.